Good evening and welcome to the script. I'm your host, Isaac Paul. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. For those of you all that are not familiar with what the script is the digital counterpart to the Tequila Tales. Now, what is the Tequila Tales? The Tequila Tales is a fully engaging and highly interactive discussion on love and relationships. What it is not is a panel discussion, and I'm always certain to say that. Why? Because with panels, the goal is to kind of sit and listen to experts or other individuals kind of share their thoughts and their opinions. But with the Tequila Tales, our motto is with love, we all have a story to share. And so my goal is to get those authentic stories from the very people that attend our shows. Now, the script, like I said a moment ago, is the digital counterpart to the Tequila Tales. And it is it is a collaborative effort between myself, the Tequila Tales, and blackdoctor.org. Now, blackdoctor.org is a phenomenal organization whose primary goal is to connect individuals with healthcare practitioners of color, right? It's not that there's anything wrong with anyone else, right? It's just that sometimes people feel like they desire an individual, a healthcare practitioner that may understand them on a more cultural, more kind of core level, kind of beyond just what the charts say. And so there are times where you kind of want someone that shares a similar experience to you that may understand you on a deeper level. And so that's what blackdoctor.org is. Not only do they have multiple other resources, but their primary goal is to align individuals with those healthcare practitioners that are people of color. But for this particular conversation, I'm really, really excited. We've got a gentleman by the name of George Tolbert, tonight's guest. He is no stranger to the script. He's been on here before, and every time that the conversation, it goes deeper. It's very insightful. And just, we always have a very powerful dialogue. He's a high school friend. He's a brilliant mind and someone who consistently shows up with thoughtfulness and with heart. Professionally, he's made waves in both the nonprofit world and the financial services. But tonight, we're tapping into something even more personal, the importance of healing conversations, especially among Black men. So with that being said, I want you all to please welcome my good friend, George Tolbert.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Man, what's going on, brother?
Look at us, man. Who would have thought?
To have you.
Two kids from the South Side. We're here again.
Right. Last time, man, actually, we had two back-to-back really insightful, really good discussions, and what I always appreciate about the way that we have our conversations is it's like we can start from one space, but then we can kind of bounce all over, kind of go all over the place, but still maintaining some depth and some complexity, right? And so, I remember when I had reached out to you a few days ago and just, saw if you were available. I knew that, with the time shift that we were a little bit later than the last time that we had gone. And you said, oh, no, I'm definitely available. And, you said, well, what's the topic? And I was like, well, listen, I really ain't came up with it yet. So it kind of depends on, where your head is at. And, you shared a story with me that kind of is what triggered what this conversation is. So what I will do is I kind of want to pass the stage over to you and just kind of like allow you to just kind of give some nuance to what tonight's discussion is ultimately going to be centered around.
Yeah, no, I had the privilege of having a 4-hour conversation with my brother. And, in the middle of that conversation, just to talk about and emote the things that were on both of our hearts and on our minds about our upbringing and everything, it just got me to thinking like, man, how many men have the space to have powerful dialogues with each other so that they can ultimately like move on, or just let it go. Like, because nobody makes it through this life without tough experiences. So you're all going to have some various vicissitudes and things that are going on to make you just want to holler, right? But like, how many men, nobody gives us as men a Staples easy button to hit and then you just man up. Or just like, you hit your button and then you just transition off. You got to just like figure it out And I think the one thing that women have that's so phenomenal, if they got magazines that give them 21 steps to do this and give them 87 steps to be able to do that. But as men, we don't get many things other than just how to be strong, be more of an alpha, or be
Right.
like, or either like be more of something else that's unrealistic in manhood and not as
Yeah.
comprehensive. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why that was just top of mind when you talked about topic ideas. I was just like, wow, that would be phenomenal to be able to dive into more if we could, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I like this discussion. I like the idea of it. And it's one of those things where it's like I feel like we're just as a society, as a culture, and as Black men, starting to really kind of take this conversation a little more seriously. You know, not only in our personal one-on-one interactions, but then as a whole, you know, certain things that collectively we used to kind of run away from. You know, I posted a reel earlier today, and it was interesting because it wasn't even intentional. It just happened to align with what it is that we're going to speak about today. But we were talking about Kendrick Lamar. We were talking about the Super Bowl performance. And I had kind of gone into a space where I was talking about, you know, just authenticity in hip hop, right? And how in many cases, you know, back in the day, that used to be kind of the cornerstone of hip hop. So much, in fact, that your reputation was everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you dared presented something that was not factual and you got fact check on it and it was not the truth, you were repudiated to the point where you could not even salvage your reputation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in a day and age where it's like we're on the opposite end of the spectrum, where not only do people not care, they actually almost prefer you to lie, right? Like they don't want the real thing. They don't want the real thug. They don't want the person that actually has had that experience that they're rapping about. They want the person that can get the most likes, the most views. And we are aware of how much grifting goes on. Like even when you look at social media, I saw a post the other day. Oh man, and I actually meant to queue it up for today. I'm gonna have to find it, but it was like, and it was a woman that posted it. It was on Thread, so that's one of my new favorite sites. But it was like it said one of those common things that it was like Black women or something like Black men, yada yada yada. I can't remember exactly what it was. And then the response, it was like CIA, and then it said some other stuff, right? And I'm gonna find this post so I can share it. But to me, it was just so poignant because I was just like, there's so many times that we're sitting here and we're arguing, right? We're arguing with a bot, we're arguing with a plant. You think that there's some
You
big
never know.
back and forth between Black men and Black women, and you don't even realize you might be arguing with a Russian bot, right? That has been infiltrating our community. And sometimes, you know, you say stuff like that, and it's like it sounds like you're a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, is that really a conspiracy, right? When we knew that the government was involved in the crack epidemic, like infiltrating our community, like it's been a systemic, very concerted effort to tear down the fibers of not only, you know, us individually, but us collectively. So how much of this stuff that we think is the male versus women argument online, how much of this is actually real people, and how much of this are bots or other people that are just agents trying to get us to not connect and not love one another, right?
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I mean, and to that point, I think we've spent a lot of time having senseless arguments on the inside with ourselves, and not even realizing that we haven't taken time to deal with the parts of ourselves that may be negative, but yet still are giving us a warning that we need to heed to. So, for example, I was talking to a guy last week and this recently, and I'm always sharing this with people about the 3 parts of every person. You know, how you have a sufferer, a strayer, and a self-righteous person. And the sufferer is always like, life sucks, you know, so I'm going to stray, you know, and do something totally unrighteous. the self-righteous, the suffering part does that. The part of us that is always wanting to speak in shoulds is extremely self-righteous. So it's like, I think you should know me better by now, or I should have been further along than I am in life. And each parts of those three are always trying to tell us a message that may or may not be true, but we just don't know if we're paying attention to that message in our brain, or are we really having realistic interactions with people that are actually in front of us. So you think that you're arguing with the person that you're in relationship with, and in actuality, there's a part of you in your own head that has the volume up very high, and it's being very self-righteous, speaking in shoulds, or it's very suffering right now and suffering from the ills of the world, or it feels like straying right now and doesn't even want to be a part of anything. And so, like, imagine now we're growing up with kids, the next generation, who, as an adult female, will not get their adult brain till 18. And as an adult male, will not get his adult brain till 25. Trying to decipher both these three different parts of themselves while arguing with a random bot, like you just said, about these things. So there's an external war going on, and there's an internal war going on. And how are we getting to those real answers and solutions? I think is the question of, to help us at some point as a society. Because it's moving so fast, Isaac. Like,
oh man,
it's moving so fast. My son, I have a 14-year-old now that's literally looking me dead in my eye. And he was just sitting on my chest, premature, 3 pounds 9 ounces. And he's in the middle of facing all of these things that we're talking about right now, on top of the stuff that we went through years ago. So it's just compounded. And he's in a global society. Right. Where, like you said, Russian bots, Chinese bots, it doesn't matter. They all have access to each other.
Yeah.
So how are we to be able to, like, have moments where they're quiet moments that bring you a retreat of some sort, right? Where you're not constantly just engaged. And what is that doing to your mental health as a whole, man?
Right. I like that. So listen, let's go ahead, and I'm gonna do it a little differently. Normally I'll start within the news, but this go round, because I really kind of want to just jump right into it. We're gonna go into this one segment I like to call "Stay Out of the Comments." Okay, stay out of the comments.
Let's do it.
Because listen, man, I made the comment a moment ago that I have a bad a new guilty pleasure, which is the social media app Threads, which is kind of like the counterpart of Instagram. It's almost like the Twitter component. And I like it because it reminds me of probably what Twitter used to look like back in its glory period, like the golden era of Twitter, before it just went completely off the rails and just got full on alt-right, So a lot of those individuals, a lot of those influencers that left Twitter are now over here on Threads. And I'm watching a lot of interesting content, but this particular one I think was both on Instagram and on Threads, and it was from Kev on Stage, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and let him do the setup. And first I'll get your reactions to what it is that he's sharing, and then we'll go into the comments. Okay. So I'm gonna get your reactions first, then we'll see how the people felt about this particular topic. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
I need to get something off my chest. Yesterday, my stepdaughter graduated, and I wasn't invited. I've been in her life since she was 4 months old. Married her mother when she turned 2. I've been there, consistent, showing up, providing, loving her like my own. But come graduation day, I wasn't given a seat. Like, word, they told me there were only 8 tickets. Let me tell you who made the list. My wife, her 2 sisters, her biological dad, her uncle, her grandma, her aunt, and her boyfriend. 8 tickets, and I wasn't one of them. Bet. I've been sitting with that pain all day. I took time off work. 3 days gone. I drive trucks. That's money and time I can't get back. And still I got left out. So today I made some decisions. I removed her from my car and health insurance, took her off everything I've been covering, told her mother, and she's grown and graduated. She can go stay with her father, the one she made room for over me. Now there's tension in my house. Emotions are high, but I'm standing on what I feel. Because the truth is, I'm hurt, not mad, just deeply, genuinely hurt. I don't need any applause. I just need to speak my truth. Thanks for listening. Here's my thought. You had it in the first half. Your feelings are valid. The best play you could have done is to sat her down and said, hey, you not choosing me really hurt my feelings. I've been there your whole life. I did X, Y, and Z. And not being able to go to your graduation really hurt my feelings. Man, it's really hard to say that hurt my feelings, especially to your children. But it's a really effective way to make people feel bad, because you feel bad. The truth is you feel bad. But because men have a hard time expressing ourselves, you went the vindictive route. And all you really did to me is prove to her that she made the right choice. Because you went vindictive. You went pay. You want to be grown? Well, you ain't got the insurance. You get the car, go stay with him since you chose him over me. She had 7 of the 8 tickets. The people were biologically related to her. The right person to go after was the boyfriend. Like, hey, y'all, I know y'all think y'all in love, but y'all might not be together in 5 years. He ain't raised you. Let that boyfriend be upset with you. That's the right choice. And I'm telling you, as a husband, as a man who grew up not able to express himself, who is learning, it's a really effective tool to say, hey, that hurt my feelings. You telling Proud Black Fathers post that you mad, tell that baby. And the thing is, sometimes kids don't understand that what they do hurt your feelings. I've told my kids, hey, man, that hurt my feelings. And I know, maybe it's not manly, but I'm trying to teach them how to be men. You can't be all strength all the time. There has to be softness as well. To be an effective communicator, husband, father, friend, lover, you have to add softness with the strength. Even a sword that doesn't have some softness in the metal will break. You have to have some weak points in there. I learned that from Blue Eye Samurai. It was a great lesson to learn. You try to make it pure steel with no give, no weak spots, no soft spots, it will break. It has to have some give to really be strong. Express your emotions, and you probably would have been better. That's my time.
Okay. So real quick, before we dive in, one of the things that I did not mention, and I always am pretty good to remember this. So before I forget, for those of you all that are watching, this is a very interactive broadcast, right? We are streaming this live. So if regardless of which place that you are streaming this, we're streaming to 5 different locations, you may be the only person in that particular room. However, if you make a comment, I can see it and I can interact, right? So, don't hesitate to join in, share your thoughts. And hello, Goldilocks. She says she loves the Zoom, very interesting and informative. Hello, gents. Hello, Lavalia. But yeah, so like I said, I want y'all to feel free to comment in because this is live so we can see it. But with that being said, so what do you think about that, right? Like, because that is interesting. I've got my thoughts. What do you think about that? The stepfather, or just what? Let me not even build it up. I'm just curious to know, what were your thoughts when you read what it was that he said, even outside of what Kev on stage said? I'm just curious to get your feedback.
I mean, as my first thought was, yikes! Like he was like, I'm shutting everything down. Lights going on, everything. Nobody laugh. Just act safe. No. I mean, again, when nobody we kind of started talking about this already. Nobody teaches men how to deal with, at the end of the day, I'm just hurt. Like, are you just making me mad? And we talked about this on one of our last talks together. It's automatically, in the time period that we grew up, you're being soft. You're exhibiting feminine qualities. If you tell someone that you're hurting, or if you tell someone that bothered me, and a lot of times what that leads to ultimately is someone making an aggressive emotional decision, because as men, I believe we're all built to defend, fight, and protect. And even if that comes down to our emotions, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the first thing automatically is like, oh no, you're not. I'm not going to let you show that you hurt me with this by excluding me from everything. I've got to defend this. And then after we've defended ourselves and protected ourselves, then the next irrational move usually is an irrational decision.
Like some punishment, right? I got to punish you.
I got to punish you. I've got to win now. Nobody
Right.
to live to tell this tale, and you have no coverage either. So,
Right.
So who's going to take care of your wounds? You should have thought about that. No more health care for you. That was kind of symbolical. I'm not going to lie. Like,
listen, it was aggressive. It was aggressive.
Yeah, it's so like,
aggressive.
but if you've been trained as a man to only speak in aggression, it's very difficult to do anything else. I'm just now getting to the point where I can do that consistently, and the only reason why is part of it, I believe, is anatomically, I just don't have as much testosterone as I used to. If I had the same level of testosterone in my body that I had 20 to 40, then more than likely I would be as aggressive as I was 20 to 40 in the peaks of those times.
So that is okay. So now you going biological, right? And you're gonna take it into the science realm. People don't like it when we go there.
That's what I was. Xavier trained me for that. The degree was in chemistry, minored in biology. MBA, healthcare management, comes to little doctoral studies in pharmacy, all of that stuff. Right. Never really did it, but got all of that just sounds smart.
Right. But no,
it's the first thing I think of, man, all the time. All the time.
I agree with you though, because that's very sound. I remember one of my favorite books. I think it was Think and Grow Rich. By Napoleon Hill, where one of his chapters, he talks about the transmutation of sex energy, right? And how primarily all things that men create come from that sex energy, which is testosterone, right? It's our driving force, it's our ambition, but what he was saying was that you have to be able to transmute that energy into, like, you have to transmute it away from just chasing after tail, trying to conquer women, and actually redistributing it into something like building something of value, right? But what he was saying was that sometimes that drive is so strong, as you just pointed out, in your 20s and your 30s, that the reason why you typically don't see men really accomplish anything of value until their 40s and 50s is because you said, like, the testosterone has declined just enough to where it's okay, I can use it, but it's not controlling me. And it's almost like until you get to that space, it becomes hard to manage it, because a lot of times people are not aware of how strong of an urge testosterone is. And it's not to make excuses for bad behavior or behavior that may be considered, not socially in sync with where society is moving. But it is important for us to understand this, because if we don't understand it and if we can't be honest about it, then we can't move beyond it, and we can't put up like safety, measures or just safeguards to ensure that men that are at that height of that are not doing things that they later regret, right? But that is a very real thing, because that's why typically the only people you see in their 20s that are accomplishing anything are what? Athletes, right? These are men who, okay, yeah, you're utilizing that physical strength into something that's very physical, but if you got to transmute that into something that's mental, good luck.
It doesn't
always, what I mean? Especially if you over 6 feet, right? And attractive, good luck.
Right. Like, because you have to do that, to have that gift, you have to slow down long enough to think through processes. And I don't know about you, but my testosterone had never allowed me to slow down long enough to think through. In fact, it was at one point in my life, I remember I was at a church in Memphis and the pastor gave me a book. He was like, "You seem very driven." I want you to read this book by Daniel Pink called Drive.
Hmm.
And long story short, essentially what the book was saying is like, you can be so driven, but your drive is like getting ready to drive you off a cliff because you don't have, you're just like, you've got all this energy that's like, I gotta get up at 5, because McDonald's is open. And if I want to be bigger than McDonald's, I got to be up at 5. Like, this is the stuff that I used to tell myself. So like, no matter how tired I am, I go to bed at 12, got to wake up at 3 because I got to beat McDonald's, right? Because I'm trying,
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so you're just driven. That sounds good. That makes a great motivational speak. But logically speaking, have you had enough rest so that your cortisol levels are now appropriately restored so that you can execute some real logical decisions after you didn't woke up at 3 to 5?
Right.
It just and we were in a time and season where it was like, sleep less or die, or I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Sleep when you're dead. Yeah, yeah. That was the famous one. I'll rest when I'm dead.
Yeah, right. And then
okay,
yeah, that sounds great, but realistically, and again, like you said, you don't start thinking of this through until your body is like, we're gonna have to pull this back a little bit. All right, reset. Now think this through. Do you have enough energy right now to execute the rest of the day effectively? After you went to bed at midnight, you woke up at 3, you've been up grinding till 7. So you've been working now for a good 8 hours. You pretty much have almost put in an 8-hour shift today. And then now you expect yourself to go out and be great. I don't think you're not thinking it through. Or there may be a few days a week when you get to do that, but not every day. Some days may require that level of discipline. And then other days may be, I need to reset. So literally, Isaac, this year, I got to the point where I was like, all right, I can do that Monday, Tuesday, but by Wednesday needs to be a reset day. And then do it again Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
That's the benefit of lower testosterone.
right. And kind of being able to think through your stuff. Right. Kind of understanding yourself and understanding your patterns. I saw this app recently, and Instagram is always advertising something, because when you scroll your feed, I don't know if you paid attention to it, but when you scroll your feed, you are literally seeing more ads and more suggested posts than the people that you actually follow. Like, it is outrageous. But every once in a while, they will hit you with someone you're like, okay, maybe. And I saw this one app that I can't remember the name of it, but I literally just saved it last night, where it's supposed to analyze your sleep patterns, which for me are all across the board, right? And always have been. But it will kind of analyze it and tell you what's the ideal time for you to go to bed and what is the ideal time for you to wake up. You know what I'm saying? Given, I guess, like you take some test. I don't know if he's using biorhythm or whatever. It just intrigued me because, of course, they had all the alpha guys up in there. Yeah, I wake up. What time do you wake up? 5:55 a.m. Oh, why do you wake up at 5:55 a.m.? Well, because, and I'm like, all right, well, first off, that's not going to be me. However, maybe there'll be some value to this, right? That I have to kind of figure out as it relates to creating systems that make more sense to me, right? As opposed to believing that there's one ideal way that everybody is supposed to be. Because honestly, I've never really agreed with that, right? Anytime that they try to tell you, well, the most successful people do this, and it's like, yeah, but not all successful people. So am I trying to be a cookie cutter, or am I trying to be Isaac Paul, right? Like, because what I need to be trying to figure out is what is the most beneficial way for me to be, you know what I'm saying? And not just doing this thing that everybody else is doing because some influencer or some alpha male, that's the new term that everybody wants to use, that all the alpha males that really aren't alpha males, but whatever, I'll play along. I'm supposed to take the cues from them, like, which that's always weird to me. Are you really an alpha male if you taking cues from another nigga? Like I'm taking cues from you, but I'm an alpha, but I need you to tell me how to think and what to do. And I'm not supposed to question You know what I mean? Like, are you really a leader? You know what I mean? But anyway, that's another topic. But I said, the comments in this is what I found to be fascinating, right? Because like I said, stay out of the comments. So the first couple of comments I saw on Threads, which because of the way that Threads is structured, there's a little bit more back and forth. The last few were on Instagram, but we'll just go ahead and dig into them, right? So this first one, person says, I disagree. He wasn't being vindictive. When people show you what they think of you, you should believe them and respond accordingly. She didn't let him see the results of all of the hard work he's put in, so he feels like she doesn't value it. If she doesn't value it, he might as well take it away. So, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that energy a little bit, right? Because I don't know if this particular post brought the men out, but it was interesting to see the dichotomy between how different people were responding. But I did, until I went over to Instagram, I was seeing what felt a bit like uniformity. And I'll see if you are able to pick that out. Next one. Tenure does not equal relationship. For all we know, he could have been a shitty stepfather her whole life. Right? Next one. This will probably be an unpopular opinion, but I think his reaction shows the type of person he is. I get being hurt. I do. But what about a conversation? Automatically toss her aside? Said, okay. All right. After reading the comments, I see a lot of women in here saying that he did the right thing, but that's because women act off of emotions. So we feel like he did the right thing based off of how we would feel as women slighted in the same fashion. But as a man and a father, what he did was wrong. Men are supposed to be in control of their emotions and be able to express them in a healthy way. Reacting off of emotions instead of having a conversation is definitely immature, no matter who you are.
She just listens to Jay-Z, that last one. She listened to whole say, men don't get mad. That's a female trait. You mad because he pushed times and he pushed weight. Like that was just somebody who was she supports Hov.
Right. And every once in a while when I read it, I'm getting better, but sometimes on Threads, I have to chime in. And on that one, I did have to challenge her because what I did not agree with in that particular comment was the fact that it's like, okay, an emotionally evolved person, right, is a person that is in control of their emotions. But to automatically make it like that's a man thing is what I didn't particularly agree with, right? Because, from her perspective, oh, men are supposed to be in control of their emotion. I'm like, no, to be clear, historically, whenever men have been in control of their emotions, what that was they just wasn't saying shit. They just were not responding back and they were holding it in. And by the time it finally came out, it came out like a geyser, right? And it erupted. And in some cases, it may have been violent. So like, I was like, don't think that just because it's a woman, automatically I'm gonna give you the pass to have bad behavior emotionally because, controlling your emotions and, being a sensible adult, that's a man trait. Oh, women are supposed to be outrageous and they're supposed to be. We're not doing that.
And let me piggyback on that because like 1,000% on what you just said. And then if you also think about it, it's what I mentioned in part of those 3 parts of ourselves. She's speaking in the language of self-righteous in the should. You should be, you're a man, you should be this, or you're a woman, you should be that. And there's very difficult to tell a human being who or what they should be in the middle of an incident that they have never been in before. So there's a lot of emotions that brother could have been facing that you have no idea like how it's impacting him and what traumas it erupted in his brain rather in that moment. You're seeing, you're supposed to just be able to be resolute because that's what men do. But you don't know how this could have reminded him of another trigger, and nobody gave him the tools to be able to handle those moments,
Absolutely. Okay. We got some more. So someone goes, thank you, Kev. This comment section is a lot of hit dogs hollering. showing that y'all got growing to do. Y'all make wholesale judgments and know nothing about the mom, child, or really this man. I see a lot of people who need therapy in the comment section, where she got a reply. A person says, what is it that we should possibly be missing? If he was so effing bad as a stepdad, why is the mother still there? If he is so bad, why is she on his insurance? If he is so bad, why didn't she go live with the bio dad or grandma or auntie or uncle? Please tell us what we're missing.
Yeah.
And so, once we start to get into some of the specifics of this is where it starts to get kind of fascinating to me, right? Because then it's like, all right, what you're more or less saying is that because he is showing up and he is paying bills, that I guess that qualifies as a good dad in his eyes. But if the first thing we have to acknowledge is that we do not know the specifics, right? So everything is hearsay, and everybody in these comments are on some level projecting, right? Everybody is projecting what they believe was the scenario based off of this limited information. Now, I do think there's some clues. I do think there's some Easter eggs, right? And I do think that there's some culpability. But what I was noticing a lot of in the comments from men or women, depending upon what side of the fence that they, fell on, they internalized it, one, as if it were them, right? Without necessarily taking a snapshot of how the situation may have actually been. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think anybody is wrong, but what I did find a little interesting though, and I think that this is when I started to challenge people, was that I was noticing from a lot of the women commenters, like, yes, there can be an assumption that maybe there's some other stuff that's happening, but the fact that everybody automatically jumps in before they first acknowledged the man's emotions, it was almost like, because of how he responded to it, I'm going to completely invalidate his emotions. And so, like, what I challenged one person with was like, okay, well, if everything is hearsay, like, how do we then know that in this particular scenario that this wasn't just the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Like, what if it was really like repeated offenses from not only the mother, not considering this person's emotions, that was adopted also by the daughter, and this was just the straw that broke the camel's back, where he's just like, I can't believe this. You know what? Fine, then. I'm just going to remove myself from this scenario. Now, how likely that is, I don't know. But the fact that we're all being assumptive, and our immediate assumptive is, oh, well, he clearly ain't shit. I'm like,
it's like you said a few minutes ago,
right?
It's a geyser. Like you just said, some men, just because they didn't say anything doesn't mean they didn't feel that. It's a geyser. Right. And he just literally could have been in a position where that was, all right, that's it. I'm tired of feeling this level of disrespect. And, for men, and we don't really talk about this as much, respect is currency. Like, if you don't respect me, that's like literally choking the air out of me. Don't tell me you love me and then disrespect me. You've literally cut off my oxygen supply as a man when you remove the respect portion from it.
Absolutely. Okay, so now with the next ones. Okay, so someone said, OMG, seriously? Y'all judge and jury off of what? 200 words? And if he's abusive, no, what if he's abusive and the insurance is a cover? What if he's been assaulting her and she's too afraid to tell her mom or dad? Just say you don't know how abuse works. I'm a professor and therapist, so I see it every day. So his response was, if all of this was happening, wouldn't they be afraid to not invite him? If all of this was happening, why wouldn't he be surprised that he wasn't invited? Off those same 200 words, you made this man out to be an abuser. And then by default, he would have to be psychotic by posting this on the internet, knowing what he's done. This is exactly why men keep their feelings to themselves. Him expressing his pain reduced him to an abuser. It's crazy out here. Wow. So, and like I said, this stuff gets fascinating to me because, again, we're living in the world of make-believe, right? But we get an opportunity to see, how these scenarios play out, where it's like, this is there's a lot of assuming that's happening, right? Like because he does have a point. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we do know that there's multiple sides to this story, but if all we're given is one side, that's a pretty big leap to be like, man, well, he probably abusing her. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like,
how did we even get there?
How do we get there, right? Like, I mean, because if we're painting our brush, if we're all turning into Tyler Perry and we're creating a narrative that's dark, we can kind of go on both sides of the fence. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I found fascinating. But on a personal level, and I didn't see this being echoed until later on. Let me see. I think this might have been the one right here. This one woman, she said, "We don't know why the graduate made this decision. It was in poor taste, but I'm willing to show a child some grace." The mother, on the other hand, Trick, is you cool? Because how did you allow this? Ain't no way you didn't have the conversation. You're off the health insurance too. Tell your job you have a life event and you need a health enrollment change ASAP. I thought that was hilarious, right? Because that's how I felt. I was like, yo, what's going on? First off, because I would see people like, because even with Kev on stage when he was talking about, everybody else is a biological, parent and this, that. Let me tell you something, okay? If I am your stepdad, I don't give a damn about your auntie and your uncle. You better move along with I don't want to hear nothing about no auntie and uncle nonsense. If I am your stepfather, you are on my insurance. I've been paying half, if not all the bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a boyfriend, an auntie, an uncle, grandparents, mom, like all of these other people, biological dad. I don't know his influence, but I'm still like, there's a whole lot of other people for me to not be, invited. And all I'm thinking is where's my wife in all of this, right? So that to me was the Easter egg is if you were hurt before you came to the internet, you probably should have been speaking with your wife and she's going to let you know, right? Like what that's all about. Because there ain't no way that's just, you just pull up and everybody kicking it. You sitting there talking with your sister and brother or your sister and brother-in-law and the whole nine, and nobody asked where Isaac at. Where Ike at? Right. He done took off work. He done done all this stuff. And Ike just at the crib punching the air like he on Boys in the Hood. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So that to me was where I'm like, all right, it's got to be an Easter egg because if the mom was cool with it, then that means that there's some other stuff that's happening that either he is unaware of or unwilling to accept, right? You know what I'm saying? So as much as I don't want to immediately villainize him, or vilify him, I can't be like, because if it was me, I would know why I wasn't invited. You know what I'm saying? Like I would feel like this requires a deeper conversation, but I do understand his hurt. I do understand how he felt, you know what I'm saying? And I think that, like I said, the part that caught me the most off guard was how many people were willing to just overstep that. Because like I responded to one person, I was like, look, let's be honest. You can always be added back to the insurance. However, that pivotal moment, you can't get that back. That's gone. That's forever. Yeah. I literally just got sent a video early today where it looked like somebody spent upwards of $30,000 to $40,000 for their prom. Okay. So we're in a day and age where people are doing extra shit, being over the top for these pivotal moments that they think are going to be memories. And you trying to tell me a graduation that I've invested in, you know what I'm saying, that you didn't think enough of me to pull up. I'm like, I know that there's more there, but just off of the information that was given, yeah, man, I can understand.
I mean, the disrespect level was so high, like a John Legend. Like you can't literally just, his air was shut off. And at that point, there was nothing left for him to do but act in survival mode. I mean, think of it, if you put it that way, and somebody cut his oxygen off and he can't breathe, the first thing he's going to do is fight to get air, because now emotionally he needs to get filled. And if you've seen anybody, I was a lifeguard. If you ever seen anybody drowning, it's not a pretty experience. Their arms are flailing around, and they trained us on how to drag that person back so they don't hurt you and themselves while you're trying to rescue them. And so, like, at the end of the day, like we just said, oxygen to a man equals respect. And if you feel disrespected as a man, the outcome that you experience after that disrespect, results may vary. And you don't know how those results are going to look and what you're going to get as a result of you being disrespectful to a man, especially one that seems to be stepping up to fulfill what he has been taught are roles as a man: protector, provider. You know, you're on the insurance, you're doing all these various things. There's obviously something there that he's doing right to it, and now in this moment be discounted. I don't know.
You know what? And to that point, I wanna actually find this one post that I saw inside of that thread. I thought it was kind of fascinating, actually, where as many people that agreed with this woman, I mean, with the male's perspective in that, because like I said, once I took it over to Instagram, they actually felt a little different on Instagram, which kind of surprised me. But this comment I found to be interesting. And so this woman said, hold on one second, I want to pull this up. She said, I met my husband when he had full custody of 3 and 5-year-old sons, raised them to adults alongside him. At our oldest son's high school graduation, he introduced me to his friends as his stepmom. He hadn't seen his biological mom since he was 7. It instantly hurt me, and I told him that night he hurt my feelings. I cried for days, feeling like our bond was one-sided. He apologized and said he didn't know why he did it and only thought of me as his mom. I let people know straight away if they hurt me. Right. And so, you know, even though she got a lot of people that agreed with that, there was a lot of people in the comments that were just like, well, I mean, well, that's what you are. Like, why are you getting upset if that's your title? You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh, shit. Oh, these people are harsh. I said, my goodness. Yeah, it was women. It was women that were coming for her throat. And I don't know if it's because maybe they are someone is the stepmother to their children, so maybe that kind of struck a nerve. But I was just like, yo, so I literally had to respond to her like, listen, I don't know why people are being so insensitive to you, but what I hope for all of them is that their significant other introduces them as my new girlfriend, or this is my second wife.
However you got to do it.
About precision. Since you're so concerned about precision, my nigga, from this point forward, so that's my third wife, everybody. I said, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And because look, I got a stepfather, and what's wild about it is even in that scenario, as a slight pivot, right? Like, you know, my stepfather came into my life probably around my 2nd grade year. They got married going into my 5th grade year. And, you know, we were a blended family. He had full custody of his 2 younger sons that were younger than me and my sister. And we were just like, almost like 8 is enough. Only we were 6, right? Yeah. And I just beautiful. But because I hadn't grown up calling anyone dad or father, for many years, I called him Mark. I would call him by his first name, Mark. But I always referred to him as my father, because I saw him as my father. I think that was just an added level of like intimacy, that because I didn't grow up in those formative years calling anyone dad, you know what I'm saying? Because my biological father and my mother, they got separated. Really, I have no real recollection of their relationship because they got separated before I was like maybe 1. And then he lived in another state, and we just didn't have that kind of relationship. And so I think because that was not something that I was in the habit of doing, and he never forced me. Great man, great provider, never acted weird about it. And I never forget, man. I was somewhere in high school. I might have been like my sophomore or junior year. Man, I don't even know what it was that occurred, man. I just remember I was sitting up one day and I just checked myself. Just middle of the afternoon. I'm sitting, in my room doing something. Man, I honestly, God, I can't remember what was the train of thinking, but I just dogged myself out. Like, how dare you not call this dude your father? And he's literally been in your life for almost, 8, 9 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, you refer to him as your father, but you're calling him Mark. And so I just coyly just started calling him. I think I made the transition. I started calling him Pops. You know what I'm saying? And then it kind of went into, dad or whatever, and we never really talked about it, but I'm pretty certain that he recognized it. You know what I'm saying? That he was aware of that a
Kudos to him
shift
for
had
that.
happened. You know what I'm
Kudos
saying?
to him
And
for
so, but I'm honest to God amazed that even just as my stepfather, that he never had an issue with that. Like, how come me,
I mean, a comprehensive man never would. I mean, a man who is confident in making sure that he's able to do the things that he's doing for his family. And at the end of the day, you can call him however you see him, and the evolution of the relationship followed that course. In the beginning, you saw him as Mark. He's that guy that's with your mom, that's Mark. But he proved himself over a 10-year span to earn the title that you eventually gave him.
And and honestly, had done that far before when I gave it to him. I think it was just one of those things. Like, if my mother had have even said, Ike, how come you don't call him dad? It might have triggered the thinking then. I think it just then turned into like a habitual thing, which is crazy because I couldn't even call anyone else by their first name in the family. Like, I got a whole bunch of rogue aunties and uncles, and these niggas is not related to me. I couldn't call adults, hey, Gerald, I couldn't do that. So they became Uncle Gerald, Uncle Lance. That ain't my uncle, you know what I'm saying? But because he was an uncle, somehow he fell into this weird little in-between space, man. And like I said, man, I look back on it and I'm just like, damn, like it was borderline disrespectful, you know what I'm saying? But and so the idea of him not being invited to my graduation, but me extending this to my biological father. Now, obviously, their situation may be very, very different. My man said he was a truck driver, so he probably on the road a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like we know that there's something more that's there.
It's a lot. It's a lot of variables that you don't know all those details to.
It's a lot of variables. Oh, we got some comments. I don't think there's a wrong answer. He has every right to be as hurt as he is and reacted kind, but emotional maturity is important. And he should have talked to the stepdaughter before reacting. She may be completely oblivious, but that little boyfriend ain't coming. Right. Right. And look, and Casey, that's why I said that I put that a little bit on the mama. Yeah. Just that he doesn't know. Now, not that the situation played out the way it did, but that he doesn't know. He shouldn't be taken to social media to vent his frustration. And that's how you know something is wrong, because before I go to social media, I'm always go to my wife, and I'm damn sure gonna go to my daughter first. So we know there's something here, because the fact that you needed to come to social media is probably something else, Right. So we got Lavalia said, and why was the biological father felt obligated? Right. Hey, listen,
that's an even better question.
I'm curious about this. You say I'm done with that mother, right? Right. That reminds me of Little Future calling Russell Wilson Papa. There was a whole controversy about it. Exactly. Right. And that to me was foolish, because like, what are we doing, y'all? Like, that is that man's dad. He is out here playing football with him, and Future is out here talking about all kinds of reckless and ratchet behavior. So no, I'm with you on that. Now, let me see. Okay, so this one right here. Now it's all right. This might be a little heavy, a little bit heavy of a pivot, right? But then I'll lighten it up after this. But when we
All
were
right.
talking about men and just sometimes having difficult conversations, right? That are sometimes important to have. This one, this one is, I think, valuable on a different reason, but it was actually also because of who was there. So it was Tim Tebow, and I can't remember this other gentleman's name, but we're talking about two cisgender, heterosexual white men that's having this conversation, and accountability was at the day, it was at the door, right? At the doorstep. And it was fascinating because I feel like you seldom get to watch these kinds of conversations play out in real time. And so while I may have a different angle that I kind of want to take with this, this is what the content is. And I'll just get your reaction from this.
You know the number one offender? Biological fathers. And it's not going to make your day. This and that. Every red dot on that. So first of all, that is a DOJ law enforcement map. It's called the red dot map. And this is over the last 30 days. And every red dot on that map is at least one unique IP address of individuals downloading, sharing, distributing child abuse and rape images under the age of 12. And there's over 111,000 of them just in the US of the last 30 days. Sean, it's right here in our backyard. It is right here. And out of everyone, and some people will say, okay, well they're just downloading and sharing it and distributing it, but they're not. 55 to 85% are also hands-on offenders, and your average offender has 13 victims in their lifetime. 13 victims. Every one of those red dots there's a boy or girl that is suffering on the other end of what they're sharing, downloading, or distributing. And I wanted to share that with you because I know that your heart breaks for them. And I think that map brings to life the evil that we're trying to fight. And it's why, one of our hearts is to get the Renewed Hope Act passed through Congress. One of our hearts is to get the Renewed Hope Act passed through Congress because it takes the law enforcement officers right now and victim identification officers at C3, and they're amazing. Some of my favorite people in the world, but there's 7 of them. Right now at C3.
There's how many?
7.
7 people to...
Yes. And also ICACs are working on that. We love ICAC and we need to enhance their funding because they desperately need it. Internet crimes against children, and they're awesome. 62 locations around the country, but primarily the ones that are also working on this are at C3. And we want to get the Renewed Hope Act passed because it would take it from 7 to 200. And now we have a much greater chance if we have all of those officers that are trained and equipped to be fighting against this evil. And again, that's the last 30 days. And that's not getting into live streaming or extortion or grooming or so many of the other issues we're fighting. That is just in peer-to-peer networks of them sharing and distributing child rape images under the age of 12.
This is 12 and under.
12 and under.
111,423 unique IP addresses.
The number one offender type is biological fathers, but by far it is being done by middle-aged Caucasian men. Over half of them college graduates. Many of them are educated, good jobs. This isn't just who we're thinking about. Like they're technical savvy. And I think that it is time that we call them out. Like that we can't stand by and stand back. Like we have to stand up and say, not only are we not doing our job as men, it's actually the opposite. Instead of being defenders and protectors of our families, we're hurting and abusing. And then we get into the fight against live streaming. And do you know the number one payer of live stream of boys and girls around the world?
US.
US. Not close. And in peer-to-peer sharing, we're 3rd. China, Russia, America.
Man, how are you combating this?
Well, we're trying to do it in every area, in every way possible. You know, creating awareness, and I hate to use awareness because people say it all the time, and I don't want awareness for awareness sake. I want people to be aware so we act to do something. I think we really have to change laws and legislation, and I believe there's a lot of people in Congress and in DC that want to change it, but we have to get it done. We have to protect these boys and girls. And I know we have to figure out budgets and balances and all these important things, but what does it matter if we figure out a budget, but our boys and girls in our backyard are being raped and abused? Like, let's make the main thing the main thing. This should be a main thing. Like, this has to be a main thing.
I know, right?
Wow.
And so what was fascinating about that is, and I ain't gonna lie, like I've always viewed Tim Tebow in a favorable light, but I knew that, you know, sometimes he could have some very at least for me, what felt like naive, very puritanical ways of how he viewed things, just purely off of how staunchly religious he can be, you know. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm also a Christian, but sometimes it kind of felt like he was very black or white, you know, in the way that he saw things. But I've never disliked him. I really had to tip my hat, because I was like, it's very few times that you'll see men sit in front of men and call out things or areas that we need to improve in, but then especially white men to white men, right? Because sometimes it feels like they can get into that space where they're like, nah, everything is good, right? Like on some make America great again. And I don't, you know, it, like anytime that you point out, like they love to tell the statistics about black people and crime and this, that, and the third, but the moment that you flip it on them, there's, you know, a bit of a matador kind of activity that they'll do. And so I appreciated them standing 10 toes down and letting them know like what that demographic actually looked like. And it's not to absolve us. It's not to say that abuse.
No, that's not what I hear you saying. No, I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think that would be phenomenal for anybody. Like if you were sitting across from two black men doing the same thing. Like we're not gonna attack our own community. We're gonna make ourselves always look as if we're absolved and we, you know, give ourselves a pass.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I didn't hear you saying that at all, for sure. And it's the stats are alarming. But again, I don't know why I keep coming back to this, Isaac. The whole 3 parts of ourselves, man: self-righteous, strayer, sufferer. Like they're real things, man, where you can literally internally be thinking one thing and it's not the reality of what society you're really experiencing. And I'm going to pass it back to you because I have so many thoughts going through my head right now after watching that. You know, actually having kids and 2 sons and knowing what, like things that I couldn't imagine.
Right.
Any mistreatment internally, but never absolving myself from the I would never. I don't want to be one of those people, because the I would never people are people who have not been in certain scenarios where if they were not under the same situation and had the same amount of pressure, then you can definitely say, would you still not be that? Would you still, you know, if your kids got hungry enough, would you steal something from the store? And so like, it's wow.
And so now to add some additional context, because I saw someone in the comment section, you know, and this is one of those things that we do sometimes as men, man, where we deflect. You know what I mean? There's always the what about, or oh, here's some other facts, and it's like, what does that have to do with the content that you just viewed? But he shared this statistic, which actually is true, because I've seen other videos about this and even did a fact check on it, and it is accurate, where they said that typically one of the biggest predictors, however, of child abuse, which is, then now this one might actually kind of freak you out. One of the biggest predictors, and I'm talking about by far, by like 100 times is what the statistics have shown us. And they was basically saying, like, the guy that the video I saw, he broke it down. He said, listen, he said, with the way that they do statistics, they'll always have like that baseline. They'll have like a placebo. And essentially, if you see even a 20 to 30% variance, that's when you know that the medicine is working, right? But when you get to say that something is 100 times more of a predictive element, this is insane. And they said that what is the largest predictive element generally of abuse is when the biological father is not in the household, right? It's generally the step parents, which is fascinating, because now this even taps back into that other conversation that we were just having, that Kev on stage had brought up, right? And so, what's interesting, you say to yourself, okay, well, how can that be true? And what it is that we just watched, because when the guy made the comment, in that particular post, I was like, okay, factually, I know the data set that you're pulling from. I don't know why that's relevant under this particular video, why you got to hit people with some random stats. Like, are you defending, you know what I mean, abuse that happens from biological fathers, and so I just kind of came out, I was like, for clarity, I was like, I know the study that you're talking about, and that is true. I was like, however, that doesn't discount what Tim Tebow is saying, because statistically, there are a lot more biological fathers than there are stepdads, right? So if you're talking about from a probability perspective, yes, there's a 100% higher, more likelihood that abuse happens from a stepfather. But because if you look at the entirety of how people are being raised, there aren't more stepfathers in this world than biological fathers, right? And so because of that, you can still have more abuse happening from a numbers perspective from biological fathers, but the percentage is higher from stepfathers. Both are heinous, to be clear, right? This is not this is a lose-lose scenario. I just thought that was an interesting caveat, which even got me to thinking, because when I saw that particular statistic come out, I was like, wow, like this even goes in to share why women are so protective of their children, right? Like when they, get remarried, or when they're dating someone, and why there is a need, because they was like that, man, 100 times. I'm trying to think of the appropriate way of how to articulate it, but when they look at all the factors, they were saying that when there is a stepfather present, that the probability of abuse increases by 100-fold. So that's what that is. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. And so that now, even just go into the story that I was sharing a moment ago, I think that's another reason why I just feel so incredibly blessed, because I literally hit the jackpot when it came to stepdads, right? Like, he is my stepfather that is better than my biological father would have been in that position, but clearly so much better than what a lot of other people potentially have experienced in this space. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just one of those things where you say to yourself, man, like, this is the stuff that people go through, right? That if you are not someone that is experiencing it, it can be very easy to be flippant of it, right? It can be very easy to be nonchalant, or to always jump on the side of the men, without understanding those factors, right? And so, now to even go back off of what I was saying a moment ago, like, that's why I can understand why some women were being very protective of the daughter in that earlier scenario, as well as the mother, and the fact that he wasn't, invited, because for all we know, maybe he has had somewhat of an abusive relationship with this child. Maybe not physically abusive, but potentially emotionally or verbally abusive, to whereas she said, yeah, I ain't giving you no ticket. Because let's be honest, like, she fired a shot across the bow. That was not accidental. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, while I understand your emotions, bro, you might have done some shit. You probably did some shit. If you
I
did
mean,
not
like,
get invited, you might have done something.
You think about like everything you're talking about with what is called as the Cinderella effect, right?
Mm.
What you're referring to, and it comes from the idea that, you know, abuse is higher in step parents than it is in biological parents.
Okay.
Historically, when that was brought out in like the 60s or 70s, and don't quote me on this, but it has something to do with like a statistic that said that approximately like somewhere between 50 and 60% of people, when they did the study, it had something to do with severe murder with kids, and aggressiveness would happen more often if there were parents that were step instead of biological. And the term came from the idea of Cinderella being abused by her stepsisters, right? And so, all that being said, it is in my humble opinion, and this is not, that's why I'm going to preface it with that,
Right.
and not like statistical facts or anything.
Right.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
In my humble opinion, it really boils down to all of us at some point experiencing some type of adverse childhood event, which none of us are absolved from. Everybody, you look at it, I can tell you with ACEs or adverse childhood events or experience, whatever, you're going to have them. It's going to happen. You're being raised by flawed human beings who are in a depraved world, who are going to have experiences, and at some point in raising another human being are going to, for lack of a better word or phrase, bleed on that person because of hurt, wounds, etc. And to paint with such a broad brush and say that 9 times out of 10, the chances or likelihood is that if you end up with being in a step situation where you have that in a relationship, you're going to end up with some kids that with abuse. It's a theory more than it is, you know, a statistical fact. And then you'd have to question, all right, well, when you say something's a statistical fact, how are you looking at it, analyzing the data of that statistical fact?
Right. Right.
You know, was it double blinded? Is it empirical data and all that other jazz? Like, why look at all of this and then just broad stroke it and just say, yeah, you got this situation, 9 times out of 10, you experience some type of abuse. I think it's a lot to do, but I'm not saying that the data is incorrect. What I am saying at the end of the day is that, one, kudos to Tim Tebow for actually even caring about this.
Right.
Because with his status and celebrity, the least thing he has to do is worry about what's going on in the rest of the world, which is something that is common, you know, in a lot of men like him who have status and various things like that. They don't have to worry about things that are going on in society and the issues that everybody else is experiencing.
You
know,
I totally agree. And that was one of the things where when I saw it, I was just like, you know, it's one of those things where, because like I said, you know, stay out of the comments, right? But you can't help but to go inside of them. And you know, we're in this space nowadays, man, where, you know, we talked about how can we as men start having more in-depth, you know, poignant, meaningful discussions with one another. And I feel like we can, but what also needs to occur is our capacity to be able to accept truth, right? Because sometimes men want to give each other the pass, right? Like sometimes we don't hold one another accountable the way that we should. And, you know, I get it, wanting to be able to share your thoughts and your emotions from a non-judgmental space. But at what point are we just enabling bad behavior, right? Like I think about even just like a lot of these celebrities that we see nowadays and just how absurd their behavior is. And it's like, you didn't have nobody in your circle that was chin checking you. You didn't have anyone in your circle that was pulling you up and being like, hey, bro, nah, now I can understand someone not wanting to parent you, because I got homies where it's like, I love them, but they gonna do what they do. And if I decide to take on the mantle of being their parent or chin checking them every time that they do something foolish, that's going to be a never ending type of situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm also not kicking it with these cats when the dumb shit is happening. You feel what I'm saying? There are people that are hanging around Kanye right now that are benefiting from the stuff
I'm
that
sorry,
he's
I'm
doing.
laughing because we were thinking about the same person.
Yeah. And so, at what point, but see, you know what that is though, right? Like, that's the power dynamic. And it's like, certain times, I think there's a certain point where certain people determine they don't want friends that are equals. They want people that are subservient to them. You know what I'm saying? Same with our president. Like, he's not going to put people around him that he believes are smarter than him, that are going to challenge him, that are going to hold his feet to the fire to be a better person. No, you get fired the moment that you do that. What I need is blind loyalty. You see what I'm saying? And if you got enough power, you're going to always be able to find a sucker that's just going to co-sign everything that you're going to do until you no longer have that power. You know what I mean? And that on some level is an indication of who it is that you're dealing with. So I do understand when some people when they decide, yeah, I ain't got time to be, because I ain't going to keep checking him. But there are times where you are kicking it with this dude. You do know that he's got some bad behaviors. You do know that he's abusive towards his children or, his wife or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And if you ain't going to say nothing, at the very least, man, I would expect you to remove yourself from the situation. I get it if you don't want to put yourself in harm's way, if you don't want to turn, a confidant into an enemy or an adversary, because that's sometimes how people view life. They view it in a polar space where it's like, you're either with me or you're against me. And it's like, bro, I'm with you, but I'm still going, try to get you to level up and point out when I think you should be growing. But honestly, I think that's only if you've presented yourself as the person who cares to grow. You see what I'm saying? Like, some of us, we want the feedback. Some of us want to know when we effing up so that we can know, like, yo, let me know so that I can become better. But some people don't want to know that. Some people would rather you, no, I'm gonna be this way. And so I think it's like a case by case scenario depending upon who it is that you're interacting with. But I do believe as men, holistically, we would benefit, at least from our community. Holistically we could, but specifically our community, we need to be able to be more in a situation where we can hold one another accountable, because I feel like we don't do that anymore. And that's very dangerous, man, for Black people. And anytime you do it, you immediately call, like, I remember Obama went out and told people in Philly that some people had an issue with voting for a woman. And to this day, everybody's still acting like they felt insulted. Where was the lie? Where was the lie?
Well,
literally, we've heard people articulate it that, man, these people from other countries, they ain't gonna respect a woman. Bro, that is verbatim what he said. What are you talking about? But because he gave it voice, now he's a simp. Now he's tap dancing. Now he's cooning, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, as much as we talk about women wanting to dodge accountability, anytime we hold one another accountable, you're a simp. Oh, you capping for these chicks, or caping for these chicks. Oh, you doing it, you doing it. It's like, nah, bro, you a shitty person. And I should be able to say that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we used to be able to, or at least they used to be able to in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then all of a sudden we got into this space where it's like, nah, man, like we want to keep rewarding bad behavior as if it's benefiting our community. I got a clip that I want you to see because it actually talks about this.
I was just gonna let that breathe for a minute, man. There was nothing for me to say after that. I mean, because you're absolutely right.
I want you to tell me what you think about
outside and you deal with your homeboys and stuff like that, the reason why it's so fun and enjoyable to you is because they're not asking follow-up questions. They're not saying, hey bro, you good? Like, let's talk about it. Like, let's dissect this. Like, they're not doing that. So of course that's more fun to you because you don't have to actually deal with any of the stuff that you are struggling with. You're running, you're a runner, you're a track star. That's what you're doing. You just want to run away when it gets hard.
It's not that our boys don't ask follow-up questions per se. I think it's that our boys don't judge us for what we bring to them, right? Or take it personal, what we bring to them. I think oftentimes women in relationships forget who the man is that is talking to them when we bring up these grievances, right? So if I bring up, hypothetically speaking, if I bring up a grievance in which you're the culprit, most women are going to take that personal and they're going to get very, very, very defensive.
Maybe.
You understand? Instead of understanding the source, understanding where it's coming from. This is not a stranger on the street that's telling you what you need to fix. This is not somebody that you just met one time at the job, a coworker or whatever, telling you what you need to work on. This is the man that loves you more than anything in this world. This is the man that's taking care of you. This is the man that's showing up for your son or showing up for your daughter or, helping your mom out when she need this or your grandma out when she need that. This is that man, right? But instead of you processing it that way, that this is somebody that loves me, that's saying these things, you process it as if I'm somebody that's trying to attack you, right? And with our friends, that's not what we're getting.
I need to start putting a little romantic music behind my reels. It'll probably make them hit a little harder, right?
You gotta have, some sizzle playing on the violin.
A little LMA or something.
Somebody doing sizzle on the harp.
I mean, I'll be laughing, man. Listen, man, we in this space nowadays. You can't just make a point. You can't just create content. You got to be full on Steven Spielberg. You know what I mean? You got to have HBO level production with music and shit going on in the background. It's like, are y'all listening, or do I need to put the right soundtrack behind what people are saying? And I'm hesitant to go there because then it just feels cheesy and shit. But that's the only stuff that's gonna take off is if I put like a nice little hum.
Yeah, because you get roped in. I'm not a SZA fan, and I already knew, man, that's snooze being played. Right. Now is really making me feel good about this conversation.
You know what I'm saying? Like, man, they really dropping it right now. You know what I'm saying? Because the music say they dropping it right now.
Right, that's right.
But how do you feel? How do you feel about that though? Right? Like, I saw validity in both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are times where I do think that that women can. How do I put this judiciously? They can nag the shit out of you, right? Like I don't know if that's judicious enough, right? Like, how do I put this politically correct?
Politically correct.
They can nag you to death, right? Like they can sneak in on something and just be like, oh my God. Like, matter of fact, I saw I should have downloaded that. It was so funny. Matter of fact, I'm actually gonna pull it up just so that you can see it. It was a woman, and she did a comedy skit where she was basically talking about how like men are simple. She was like,
I saw that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
She's like, the problems, all these problems are because of women, because y'all don't understand how simple men are. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, you're giving us too much credit. Like, they just want to end this, this conversation. And I don't think that either side is right. I don't think that either side is wrong. I do think that in some instances it's balance. One of the things that's fascinating, one of my best friends, it would actually surprise me. Every time I would go over his crib, he and I would, we sitting up, we drinking, we kicking it, and we would get into these deep conversations. But through these conversations, he would start sharing things either about his past or about something that was currently happening at his job, right? And I would notice that his girlfriend, who's now his fiance, would just be sitting over in the background, like, oh, how come you didn't tell me about that. You know what I'm saying? And she would be bothered by it. And, you know, as empathetic as I was to that, it would kind of piss me off because I want to be like, oh, you take your ass in the other fucking room. Like, this ain't got, like, this is our time. You literally have this man 24/7 for weeks. This is the one time I came over here and I can't get your ass out the room so that we can really have real man talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you ear hustling. And the only reason she ear hustling is because she's getting more data about her fiance when I'm in the room than she does when she's with him alone. And so obviously that says something about their dynamic, right? But I've always been a person that takes interest in people. You say what?
It may not. It may not show anything about their dynamic. Okay. It really honestly may be what we were talking about on how easy it is to be transparent. All right, so I'll put it like this. I was talking to a therapist one time, and I said, I already know most times how my wife is going to respond, so I don't even talk about certain things.
Okay.
I just hold those things in, and I'll just go ahead and just make a decision. And then tell her what the contingency plans are going to be, yada, yada, yada. And the therapist will say, but then you're saying you're upset that your wife doesn't chip in and give you support and ... And I was like, I couldn't say anything. I was just sitting there frozen. It's like, you got a point. I did kind of shut her out from jump, huh? But I think that it's a skill you have to learn in relationships, specifically opposite sex relationships. And that's just something that I'm learning. What I'm learning is that if I want to have that type of conversation with my spouse or significant other, I have to be able to realize that I don't want to answer the question for her based on historical knowledge of who I think she's going to be for this given scenario. I need to give her an opportunity to prove whether my assessment based on historical data is correct, or is she going to show up a newer, different, evolved woman? Because what I found out about my wife over the last 19 years is she has evolved every 5 to 7. She's a new person. And that is what's kept, for me, that's what's kept the relationship super interesting, to see what version am I going to get at 50. 20 is nothing like 30. 30 is nothing like 40. She's 46 now. And I'm like, wow, this is not the 20 I met at Xavier in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just evolved over time. So no, it may not have nothing to do with their relationship.
Okay. All right. See, this is why I enjoy having conversations with you, right? Like, I always love when a person can say something that literally stops me right in my tracks, because, you know, I'm the know-it-all, right? So I get knee deep into knowing some shit, and I'm like, oh, this is what it is. And you're like, well, maybe it ain't that. It could be. I'm like, all right, well, hold on, what you got? And you are right. You are right. Because even the way that you set up the premise, I think we all sometimes, especially thinkers, right? If you're a thinker and you're someone that can project, you know, and you can kind of anticipate a person's behavior, and it's not necessarily, you don't do it intentionally to control them, right? I think that when we do that, I think that really what that process is in us is our desire to protect them and to maintain the peace, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I know my wife, there's certain things that are going to, I know how she works. I can't even suggest something because she's a planner and she's forward thinking. It took me years to realize that she was doing this. I'm the type of person, I might be drinking, kicking it, and, you know, just throwing out stuff, right? Like options, ideas, you know, this is me playing around in this ethereal space. Nothing is concrete, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm throwing it to someone who is listening intently, and she's catching stuff, and then she's figuring out, all right, what's going to be the plan?
Automatically, how that's going to work. Yeah.
And so I look up, and she done put a whole plan together, and then made it a reality, and then solved. You know, she like Dr. Strange. You remember in Avengers?
I already know where you're going.
All of those different.
We got 873 different scenarios on how that could work.
And there's only one way that we're gonna
There's
be
only
Thanos.
one way to
Like,
execute.
and I'm like, wait a minute, I was just talking shit. We was just drinking and kicking it. Girl, I didn't move past that. That ain't what we doing, you know. So me knowing this now, I have to be cautious about what I share with her, or if I'm sharing it, I know I gotta, you know, kind of give the disclaimer, like, hey, then look, this is just a conversation. Now don't stay off the internet for the next 48 hours, right? And so, you know, your intention is not to it's not to control, but because that is the way that I think sometimes men think, you know, especially if we're leading and we understand like who our spouses are. There may be certain things that either you are withholding for protection purposes, or to your, you know, or to my friend's point, he may have known that she wasn't going to provide the kind of insight that he was looking for, that could actually help him. And when it came to me, he knew, okay, I could share this scenario with my guy because Ike is going to give me some insight that nobody else is going to give. So I'm going to share this story with him. And I think that she just didn't understand that, and she took it personally, right? Like in a sense of, listen, babe, he tells you a whole lot more stuff than he tells me, obviously, because y'all living with one another, but you can't get territorial or overly possessive because of this one piece of information that he had the audacity to share with me, because I probably got more insight than you have, right? Like I'm gonna tell him something that you're not going to tell him. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, that used to be one of them scenarios, man. They used to annoy me sometimes. I'm like, man, why don't you take her ass upstairs and shit, man? She never hangs out, and now all of a sudden, man, every time I come over, man, she hanging out, you know. And I know,
you know, another thing,
I didn't stunt, you know what I'm saying? And she a sweetheart, but I was like, God damn, I don't even get to kick it with the homie. But every so often, you know what I'm saying? And I can't ask him like, hey, bro, why don't you meet me out? Let's go have drinks somewhere, okay? We're not gonna be another thing, man. You know.
Here's another thing. She may have picked up on that fact that you just said, that he literally opens up more when you're not than she does when they're at home. You know, because if a man is working all day, then comes home, wants to dump the day and just sit and quiet and process internally and go into his internal cave, like a lot of us tend to do from time to time, there's not a lot of communication going on. I mean, you would assume some couples have pillow talk and various things like that, but you might be one of those brothers that just needs to come in and decompress, sit in his chair, watch the game, and mindlessly just escape into the abyss of reality, so he can, you know, prepare himself to go do it again. And then when he gets around you, it's like, well, I can actually open up and really dive into some serious issues and solve some things that I've been thinking about. You know, you just never know. You never know. But I get it, man. Like, I would be like, man, I'm just trying to kick it with the homie, man. I ain't really trying to like be your case study so you can learn them too.
Yo, and you know, and it's always such a funny scenario, you know, like interacting with them, because like I said, like, and I say what I say, but you know, she really is a sweetheart, and she really is a good person that I've seen grow a lot. You know what I mean? But you know, I think that when I saw that video about like how men interact, that did kind of fascinate me a little bit, because I was like, yeah, you know, I do know why sometimes we can share more with one another, but I do think that the woman did have a point though on some instances, that sometimes, and this is kind of what we were talking about a moment ago, that sometimes as men, you know, the bar is lower for us to have this type of conversation, you know, because of the fact that sometimes we're not going to hold you accountable. Sometimes we're not. And the moment that we become that person that is holding someone accountable, then all of a sudden it's like,
who's he think he
you
is?
know,
Like, who's telling me you got it? You know, accountability is one of those things that like you have to want to have it. And you have to be as evolved or comprehensive as enough of a man to say, to recognize when you're being criticized versus someone's, giving me some food for thought, right? And at the end of the day, every brother doesn't want that from every relationship. Case in point, you look at your relationship with your partner that you're talking about. He may know I can have quality conversations with this brother because he's a thinker. But there are other guys probably in his life that he's like, man, we just gonna sit here and chop it up and blow smoke up each other's. But man, I see you over there, man. No, I see you, man. You got the new Air Ones on, right? Yeah, man. I mean, that's the man dialogue right there. But like, I've been with me since I was 12. Yeah, man. Well, I got bread now. I got them. And so we sit there and the whole conversation just blowing smoke up each other. And at the end of the day, I don't know if I should say pause because like Mace and Cam have got everybody like blowing smoke up each other is crazy. That's diabolical. But anyway, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know if we really should be holding someone to the fire like that. And the reality is that from accountability comes massive growth. That is it. If you have someone who's in your corner and is willing to hold you accountable to be the man who you say you're going to be, that is the only way you get to it. And that's not just something I'm saying off. You can even, I don't know if whatever your faith is, every person in the Bible that had men around him, man in the Bible that had men around him who they were holding him accountable were mighty men who won victories. You look at the ones who had falls, they happened when they were by themselves and had nobody to say, nah, that's not a good idea. So whether you were Samson or whether you were David on the mountaintop looking out at Bathsheba, like it doesn't matter. Two scenarios, you by yourself, there's a good chance you're going to drop. But when David found himself in the cave of Adullam, surrounded by all his soldiers, and he had just got whooped, and he sat there and talked to God for a minute, and the guys huddled, say, yo, fam, you think we can go take him? He's like, I'm going to go get him. And then they roll out and defeat the army that just whooped them a few minutes before. It's because they had the circle of accountability around them. There's nothing better than in my humble opinion, there's nothing better than having a brother around you that can literally come up to you and say, I believe you're better than who you're exhibiting yourself to be in this moment. And I want you to believe that and make a better decision than what you're doing right now.
That's powerful. And I agree. And I also found the video that I was talking about.
Let's do it.
So, just because I was like, this woman to me, I literally just saw her recently. And when I saw it, I said she has in many ways kind of broken down the DNA of us. Hold on one second, because I've got it processing right now. Actually, I think I could just do it from right here. Hold on one second.
I need to get something off my chest.
Hold on. We're going to do it right here. This tickled me. Oh no, they are stopping me from being great. Okay, here we go. All right.
And men are good people, all right? I mean, it's on you if it's not going well. And I'm being honest with you. If you're in a relationship with a man and it's not going well, ladies, it's your fault. No, don't boo me. They're simple creatures. You have overestimated them if you've allowed them to upset you. They are simple creatures. Are you offended by me saying you're simple? No, he's delighted because he wants word to get out so that she will lower her standards and quit nagging, okay? Here's the problem, is that women think that men are thinking all this stuff, and they're not, Half the time the words escape their lips like invisible paintballs, just pelting and annoying women around them. They don't even know, because women, we overthink everything. That's why we can't have wet dreams, okay? Because we'd be like, how did Brad Pitt get in my room? I thought I locked the door. I don't like this position. I haven't brushed my teeth. We think all the time. They don't. They don't. It's not your fault, honey, that you don't think a lot, because you're penis impaired. You have outdoor plumbing, and it pulls on your spine and creates pressure on your medulla oblongata. sometimes we read into stupid shit they said and we get our feelings hurt when it's just a dumb dude statement. He's just doing dumb dude stuff. And women get mad. They go, and I appreciate, I'm letting you know, they go, Monique, you make it sound like we should lower our standards when it comes to men. It's like, no, don't lower them, lose them altogether. If he comes home at night, he's yours. Just feed him some noodles and touch his pee-pee, you know? They're that simple. Live your life. Live your life, ladies. I wish somebody would have told me the truth. Go live, do whatever you want, be an astronaut, whatever. They don't care. They're not even paying attention to you. You want me to tell you something? When you try to engage a man in a conversation, when you ask a man a direct question, you know what the man is thinking? The man is not thinking of the answer to that question. The man is thinking, what can I say that will shut this shit down? I'm not mad. I don't want her gone. You know what I mean? I just want her over there right now. I'm not ready. She's coming in hot and I haven't had coffee.
Hey, man.
I'm not saying that that's the truth all the time, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I didn't hear too many lies either. So then that's the
Listen. The four words that any man has dreaded since probably high school is "we need to talk." Okay,
exactly.
like that, because you just knew there was nothing positive on the other end of that, right? And it just was a clear indication that there was something that you were not doing properly, and it was going to place you into a space that you may not have been emotionally equipped to handle. You know what I mean? And so that's I think what's been unique about our development is that the older we become, especially in this new space, right? Like we are starting to become more emotionally aware, you know, and I think that has its benefits, but I think it also has its drawbacks. And I don't think that we've been as honest about that collectively, men or women, you know. And I talk about it a lot of times in Tequila Tales because, you know, one of the things about Kevin Samuels, right? Like as much vitriol as people may have felt came from him or from his platform, you know, the one thing that probably him more than anyone that I can say inside of the space has done has gotten men to feel more comfortable with being vocal, right? Now I think we've gotten to a space where it's like, all right, the pendulum has swung far off to that side. Now we got to kind of reel it back in, and not to get them to a space where they're not talking, but to get them to remember that there's a certain way that we need to speak to women because they don't vibe the same way that we do. And I just feel like there's something that's lost when we lose that element of respect and chivalry, you know, in how we communicate with them. Like there used to be a point where we wanted to protect them. It was cool. It was cool to feed into a woman and make her feel good about herself, right? Even as a man that may have had your needs, if you were pleasing that woman's needs and you were acknowledging that there was things about them that made them different than us, they in turn would start to lean more into you. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's something that we've missed in this new day and age where it feels like we're doing a lot more bickering than we used to, you know? And I feel like now that men are starting to do that, now they're getting the label of sassy, which admittedly, sometimes the behavior can feel a little effeminate in a sense of you're more concerned about getting your lick back and one-upping them, which to me is always fascinating because I'm like, when we came up, bro, women were the trophy and not just sex, but sex was included. You know what I mean? Like we were going to do what we needed to do. We were going to be who we needed to be to obtain the attention and the desire of the women who were the object of our desires, right? And it's like now I don't really know what the end goal is. And this is not an age thing because I feel like everybody has fallen into this troll culture where the goal is, you know, kind of like what the conservatives say, owning the libs. Okay, but at what point? I always say it's three types of people in this world: people that want to fight, people that want to be right, and people that want to win, right? And those of us that want to win, you have to determine what is winning for you. Because if winning for you is I'm a man who find women attractive, and I want a woman to love on me so that I can be, affectionate and intimate with and share with, then that means that there are some times where you might lose this battle because you're thinking about the war. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that was where our mind used to be. It wasn't us being a simp. It was us understanding that I don't have to go tit for tat all the time because I'm getting something of value from them. And I don't really know when things shifted. I don't really know when we lost that, when sex wasn't as enticing, and that in and of itself is a whole conversation. Is it when, not to be ratchet, but did the price of coochie plummet? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it that, right? Where it's almost like because we don't have to work for it anymore, we don't value it as much. And that, and I'm not saying we, but I'm saying like them, because like that new generation, bro, like the swiping this and doing that. I've never been able to be on dating apps. I've never been on a dating app, and not because I'm better than it, but just because I'm a communicator, and that would be like steroids and crack cocaine and heroin all mixed together, right? Like I would not be able to do anything because I'd be a god on that platform because I know how to talk. And because I know how to talk, I'd be talking to 40 different women and not accomplishing anything. You know what I'm saying? They'd all fall in love with me, but it just would not be productive. So I've never been on a dating app. Luckily, I haven't needed one. But if that were the case, I can imagine how easy it would be to just line them up and knock them down and just on to the next one, right? So is it that the process has become so fluid that because people don't have to work for it, they don't value it anymore? And now men have gotten to a space where it's like, I'm like, are they having sex still? I mean, because when I see dudes arguing with chicks online, sometimes it's just like, this is really weird. You know what I'm saying? And I think it could be a combination of a couple of different things. Maybe it's this is the object of my desire. I know I can't have her, so I'm just going to troll her and talk shit about her because that makes me feel better. Like I don't. Maybe it's a little bit of that. Maybe it's internalized senses of inadequacy. These women are earning more or just as much as us, so I can't use my money in the things that I can buy as being enough. And a lot of men haven't evolved to the point where they've actually figured out how to articulate thoughts and emotions and, develop game. Because they haven't developed game, they've become angry because they are aware of the fact that there's all these women out there and none of them want them. And so the anger causes them to want to argue with women. Like all of it is weird to me, bro, because I'm just like, I could think of so many better things to do with my time than sitting up and arguing with a woman that I actually find attractive, that I actually will want to develop something with. I'd much rather just leave you alone and let you do your own thing rather than feeling like I got to tear you down. Like but like I said, I think a part of that is troll behavior. You know what I'm saying? And it's a little disgusting. You know what I'm saying? This was one of the things I was going to share with you. It kind of ties into this. Ironically enough, the segues this particular episode have been killer, but nonetheless, not to pat myself on the back, but damn, I totally set this one up. I saw this, and this came from Threads. A woman shared a conversation of someone that slid into her DMs, and it was just like, damn, this behavior is so weird to me. So person hit her up, and so this is recent, May 12th, right? 6:54 p.m. Hey, gorgeous, you work at Hooters and so and so. So first off, let's start there, okay? You work at Hooters, okay? So, all right, bro, like, who gonna tell them, okay? Not trying to say anything about these women that work at Hooters, but bro, she probably gets a lot of action. Okay, so sliding in her DMs and thinking she's just gonna fall in love with you, that's tantamount of a construction worker catcalling a baddie and thinking that she's just gonna drop everything and just run over. And anyway, all right, so yeah, no, she responded though, right? Yeah, only on Tuesday. Boom, exclamation point. So right there, okay, I'm gonna keep interrupting this shit because I feel like there's some teaching lessons that can happen, right? You got an exclamation point, which means she had energy, right? Yeah, only on Tuesdays, right? So she might have even thought you was cute. You probably had a chance. I work at Liam's the other days. She's giving you insight on what else she's doing. Oh, okay, that's what's up. That's Fitzgerald's place. Question mark, LOL. It's crazy because you popped up on people you may know, and I recognize that pretty face of yours. Oh, thank you. So right there, you kind of messed up a little bit because you went right towards the pretty face, but I get it. It's hard not to go there, but she hit you with the oh, thank you. This is where he goes nuclear. For sure, we should chill sometime. So, all right, she didn't respond to that, right? But we're still inside of the same day, okay? Because now here we are the next day, 11:23. Oh, you think you too good or something? LOL. Okay, right there. You showing weakness, right? You showing some bitch assness. Oh, you think you too good? Nah, bro. After you say that, let it ride. I probably wouldn't have said nothing for a couple of days. I could have been in love. She ain't gonna get nothing from me for a couple of days. I'm gonna probably fire one more shot that's right for the jugular. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm gonna ease off. She not interested, but oh no, you gotta go for the let me show you that I'm feeling insecure, right? Oh, you think you too good or something? LOL. All right, here you go. Not even an hour later. You females funny as hell these days. For real, for real. Like, you're cute, but to think you're bad enough to ignore me cracks me up. First off, it's your, which is YOU apostrophe RE, but whatever. Right. I'm splitting atoms. You know what I'm saying? She hit you with dog. I don't know you. I don't owe you an answer. So right there, bro, you need to just go ahead and back away. Okay. You've already lost. Okay. You've already lost this, but here you go. Now his ego is involved. I didn't say you did. I'm just saying you're mediocre. I was trying to be nice, laughing my ass off. Besides the fact, you ain't all that. Humble yourself. Laughing emoji. Bro, I don't care. Laughing my ass off. You're weird AF. Just because I messaged you to try to chill don't make you a bad bitch. LOL. You weird, bro. Look like a damn bird. Please stop before I go in. LOL. Have a good day. All right, and so hold on, let me see.
Dang, he's still going. Wow.
Oh man, still going. Hold on, let me humble yourself. Humble yourself like you're fat, like you're. That's supposed to be far from bad. Is what I'm trying to say. And you talk weird AF. Some things up with your mouth. Just be humble. Your lesson learned for today. LOL, goofball. So she hit you back. Who hurt you? LOL. I didn't do anything to you. Nobody hurt me, bro. LOL. Like I said, I'm chilling. I just can't stand a female who thinks she's better than someone, especially when she ain't even all that. Like what? And you know you ain't all that. That's the funny part. You can just tell how insecure you are to talk to you. But I don't know. Apparently, you're a bad bitch all of a sudden on Facebook. And it's like, bro, you literally just had a meltdown in real time. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And why is no one around you to let you know that that's lame behavior? See, sometimes I'll be blaming folks like us, man. Sometimes I'll be blaming the OGs, man. Sometimes I'll be blaming us that have been in the game. Maybe we didn't either establish enough relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was just one of those things that just happened because we weren't focused on becoming influencers. We weren't focused on like getting a bunch of attention. We was just happy doing our own thing, finding our significant others or in them streets. We wasn't trying to raise up the next group. But what we've done is we have left a big portion of people like to the wolves, and they out here trying to figure it out, and they taking cues from all the lame cats, right? And now you got all these people that's like, you know, the what's the name, Andrew Tate, and all of these, you know, tough guys. And I could tell, like, bro, if it wasn't for your money, bro, you get no play. I already know that without your money, because you got no swag. Half of these cats have absolutely no swag. You take away the money, these women would not want to spend a minute around you, right? And it's almost like it's really unfortunate because you got this new generation that's coming up. And I actually got a homie, man. Like, I met him a couple years ago, and you know, he was actually younger than I thought he was. Initially from Africa, but he's been here for a couple years. Kansas, came here. Really cool dude, but like young, kind of impressionable. And when we talk, I realized, like, okay, you're a good dude, but damn, you're taking cues from a lot of people that I know wasn't really them guys back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if that's who you're taking your cues from, then you're going to be out here trying to holler at chicks, and that game ain't going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, and then you get bitter because you feel like I'm putting forth the effort, but it's just not resonating. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm like, I think it's a couple of different variables that's happening. But like, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, okay, when did we get here? When did we get here where it's like, I gotta argue a chick down and then be salty at the end of the day because all you left with is your hand? Who are you sleeping with, bro?
I'll tell you two things. To answer your first question about how did we get here and when did this start to decline, you just look, whenever you see the shift in music and R&B music, that'll tell you exactly when it happened.
R&B.
You know, because you can definitely tell that there was a shift in, not really a decline in females and the ability to get them, but more of a just decline in love. And a lot of R&B artists, if you listen to the R&B Money podcast at all, they'll come on and say, I think it's because a lot of our artists didn't grow up in church like they used to. Like a couple have been on with Tank and Jay Valentine saying those exact same things. It's like, if you think about the R&B artists that really have the soul-stirring, heart-grabbing songs, and even today, you look at your PJ Mortons and people like that who can still, in today, write a ballad that'll make the hardest thug cry, a little slow thug tear. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, they're
thug tear,
thug tear, man. Like Denzel and Glory getting whooped, just that one tear.
Right.
But like, but I mean, there's some that say there's that connection of, you know, are we still singing songs that have to do with love, and does that resonate and come into the society and resonate with the times? There's that. But then when you talk about, you know, us being the next generation of people that educate those individuals, we're just now getting to a point. Well, for me, I'll speak for me. I don't like using a lot of we statements, but for me, I think I'm just now getting to a point of emotional intelligence to be able to feel confident enough that I even have enough to share back to somebody, because we're the first generation, I believe, that sits in an intersection of we're not too manly to where we won't tell our sons I love you, and we're not too sensitive to the point where we're probably kissing on them every single day. I hope that makes sense and didn't offend anybody. But you get what I'm saying? Like, we're kind of at this intersection point. I believe that's the reason why marketing companies skipped over us and went straight to millennials. It's because they couldn't figure out, like, with our generation, like, what do we really do to reach them? Because they are at this point of They have a certain amount of values that reach all the way back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But they were raised at the inception of the internet. And so they understand technology in the next generation to another subset. So where do we put them? I don't know if it's really our fault on whether or not we owe that to the next generation yet. I think there's still time for us to be able to add value to their life. Now that we know better, we do better and do it quickly so that there's not a lot of, they say that I've heard it said, and this analogy has been used in several different sects, where there's a generation that learned all hard work, and then there's another generation that benefits because of that hard work. And then the generation after them doesn't really have any of those values. And then the last generation ends up poor again, having to start from the very beginning. Right. And I've heard that analogy used when that story told with various different sects, whether it be from a church context or whether it be from a socioeconomic context. It's all used the same. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that we get to do is have a certain level of awareness to where now we can say, okay, I get it. We're one of the first to actually have access and be in boardrooms and even have an idea that says EDIB is a thing that we should even care about. We're one of the first to understand that there are tax shelters where you can hide money and be able to. We're one of the first to realize that going to college and getting a job was not the ideal thing. It was really to be able to teach how to become business owners, because the country rewards you for being a business owner and for being married and having children, because you're contributing to the society in two different ways. You're contributing by either creating more consumers through a stable family, or either you're creating an environment where people can now have more jobs because you're a business owner. Either way, I wouldn't put that much pressure on us to say it's our fault. I would say we're still learning so much. And specifically in the African American community, we're learning a lot right now. And it's just our job to learn the truth and pass it on as quickly as possible. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody was prepared for a lot of what we're seeing right now. But those would be the two things. I always look at music. For me, I'm loving being such a music fan, music being a tale of the times of what society is dealing with. It's always been that. If you want to find out when a shift happened and how did we get here, you just go back to whatever your favorite genre is and listen to the lyrics of those genres and take it back maybe about 3 or 4 decades and trace it. And then you'll probably find right around the tip drill video, it's where somewhere up in there, not where Cash Money took over for the 99 and 2000, but
no, we were still cool. We were still cool with Cash Money. Once we went to tip drill, that's when society took a steep decline. Okay,
What else? Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Tip drill was, to this day, okay, to this day, like tip drill is. Oh my God, that was the height of debauchery. Okay,
still
like
undefeated,
that was,
And so I throw that out just because, man, it's like it just shows you how far we've traveled in so many different areas and how much further we have to go if we really and we have to. And I don't think we ask ourselves strategic questions enough. You have a phenomenal partner that is able to like catch the vision of what you say, and then she like starts playing this. You literally have what Miles Monroe called what a woman is, an incubator. Like you give her groceries, she'll make you a meal. You give her a house, she'll make it a home. You give her it's an incubator of sorts. You give her a seed, she gives you a child. And so like when he talked about it, I don't know if you're familiar with Miles Monroe, but when he talks about this, he paints this idea of how it's phenomenal to have that, and that's the way it was designed to be. to have someone that is like that, where you can you say an idea and they automatically are like, I know Jinjitsu. Like they just got jacked into the Matrix with Neo, and now they're just pulling everything together. It's like, is this what you were saying? And so, like, I think that learning things like that, it takes time. It's going to take, for families that came from African culture that are now broken, that now have to take the semblance of culture in hip hop, and that be our foundation of who we are. And then go from a time when people were telling us, like Q-Tip, that hip hop is a way of life. It doesn't tell you how to raise a child or treat a wife, you know. And then now you move on to other things and you keep going and going. The music will literally tell you where the shift happened, what was going on in society, why it happened, and what we can, and probably give us some clues if we want to make a shift.
I think a lot of what you said was incredible. What's very unfortunate is that my wife is probably either
knocked out
the broadcast or she's gonna watch it, and I guarantee you, I'm getting some Matrix jokes. She's sorry, she Neo all of a sudden. You know what I mean? She's gonna think she the one all of a sudden.
I didn't think that through. I just like. But when I heard you say that, I had to circle back to that because I was like, "Yo, that's actually pretty dope."
Right? Don't give her some credit, okay? Some credit, okay?
Like, she gonna tell you should have been talking to this dude a long time ago. I know. He on his way.
You know what? I like that George. You know what I'm saying? She already said that before. I don't even know why. And now this is confirmation. She said somewhere like, see, I knew I liked him. Because he think he's smart. Start sounding like what's my man's name? You know, congratulations, you played yourself.
Oh yeah, like Khaled.
Congratulations. Turn to DJ Khaled. Okay, so check it. Before we tell everyone good night, okay? I gotta ask you a question, man. Have you ever called up your homies to tell them good night? You know what I'm saying? Do you ever call up the homies to tell them good night? Now, you might not know where the hell I'm going with this. I don't know how tapped in you are to social media.
I almost said pause. I was like, hey,
listen. Oh, this is definitely pause, but you're gonna get a kick out of this because we talk about men sharing their emotions. And probably in the last like week to week and a half, there's been a trend that started on TikTok, but I've seen it blasting across Twitter, Threads, Instagram. And it started with people playfully, like I think it was a woman that got her husband to reach out to his homies and wish them a good night, right? And just what would their reaction be? Okay, so people are recording the reactions of how their homies respond to them being wished a good night. So I got a couple of them lined up, right? Because the shit is hilarious, but it's also kind of fascinating for a couple of different reasons. We're not gonna watch the entire videos, but I'm gonna at least give you a cross section of how people responded to being called. And then as you're watching this, I want you to also think of, your close friends, right? Like, your day ones, and then even like, your buddies that you're cool with, that you close with, like me. Like I just call you out the blue, like, hey man, yeah, man, what's going on? You're like, hey man, what's going on? Just call you out the blue, like, yeah, man, I just, sitting up here laid up, man, shit. Just want to wish you a good night, and just what would your response be? Because when I tell you this shit is hilarious, and as I see the different responses, I'm like, what's dope about my friend circle is they cover all of these responses, right? From the pause to people that are rather, tapped in. So, we'll just cycle through a couple of them because, like I said, some of them are classic.
What's good, bro? What you got going?
Why was that?
No, I'll just call and tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.
Hello?
What?
Hello?
Yeah, what do you mean, good night?
I'm about to lay down, bro. I'm about to get into bed. I just want to call and tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams.
Yeah, but nigga, why the hell you call? Why are you telling me?
I hope you sleep tight, bro.
Nigga, what?
All right, bro. I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow, man. Sweet dreams.
What do you have going? What sweet dreams, nigga? I'm a grown. What's going on? Are you good?
Yeah, bro. I can't wish that you sleep good tonight, bro.
Nigga, when in the hell have you ever wished it? Why?
All right, bro. I'm gonna sleep tight, so I'm gonna holler at you. All right, bro. All right.
Nigga, don't call my phone doing this. You know what? Where's the red button on this? Hold on.
Where's the red button?
What a red button that on this?
Yo.
What's good, bro? What you got going on?
I was just on the phone with my boy. Anything I?
Yeah, bro. I just want to call and tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams.
The fuck are you talking about?
No, bro. I'm about to lay it down, bro. I just want to call and tell you good night, bro. I hope you sleep tight tonight.
Yeah, I love you too, money. What the fuck's going on? What are you doing? There's been so many nights since I've seen you. You haven't called me to say good night, but tonight is the fucking night you want to call me to say good night.
Yeah.
What's happening? You alright?
Yeah, bro. I just hope I hope you have sweet dreams tonight. I'm gonna have sweet dreams, so I hope you do too.
You want a hug, nigga? Like.
No, bro. I just want you to sleep good, bro. That's it, bro. All right, I'm about to hop in the bed, bro. I'll let you later.
What the fuck? All
right.
Like people would believe God.
What's up, my guy?
Oh, he wasn't having it.
What's going on with you, family?
Man, what you got going?
Nah, shit. I'm ready to head to work.
Man, we shit. Man, I was just calling to tell you good night, bro. I'm finna go lay down next to Ashley.
Fuck you, say?
I was just calling to tell you good night, bro. I'm finna go lay down next to Ashley, cuz. I thought about it before I lay down, bro. I just want to hear your voice, bro. Good night.
What?
You sick, man?
Hell no, nigga. I just was thinking about you, so I'm finna go lay down, cuz. just want to tell you good night, bro.
All right, Sam. All right, man.
Okay.
I get at you tomorrow, man.
All right, my guy.
He like, I don't know what to say. He like, I don't know. He going through something.
You got cancer?
Neighborhood now, what's the deal? What's going on, man? Oh, shit, I ain't want shit, man. I'll just call and tell you I'm about to take a nap.
Well, take a nap.
Good night, bro.
You was about to take a nap. What type of shit is that? I feel like you being disrespectful.
Good night, my nigga.
No, that's some gay shit. You really.
I mean, what I tell you, the first thing.
What's up, boy?
Look, one of his guys
What's up, boy?
get hella mad.
What you doing?
Over here, over in the house watching the game.
Oh, I'll just call and tell you I'm about to take a nap, bro.
What the fuck?
Good night. Good night, bro. Hey, boy. Hey, I'm just calling to tell you I'm about to take a nap.
He didn't call him a hoe. Why you call him a hoe?
Good night,
Stop
bro.
it. Stop it.
Good night.
What the fuck you mean?
I'm crying real tears.
Good night, bro.
What's up, dude?
Dude, I'm fucking tired.
Are you? Yeah,
I'm tired, boss.
Hey, me too, man. We just put the kids to bed. I was about to go to bed. I just wanted to call and say goodnight.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too, bro. Yeah, man.
I'm on the phone, honey.
Yeah. Hey, you tell the wife that the men are talking. We're saying goodnight to each other right now because we're tired.
Me and Cody are saying goodnight because we're tired. She thought I was talking to her. So I answered the phone.
Oh, man.
What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, dude?
What up?
Hey, I was just, we just got the kids to bed, and I was getting ready to go to bed, and I just wanted to say goodnight.
This motherfucker. Get your ass over here. Have a beer.
What are you talking about, dude? I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I want to say goodnight.
Hey, I'm okay with that. But come tuck me in then, daddy.
I mean,
I'll play your little fucking game with you.
I guess I can come over and tuck you in, but...
I'll play your little game if you want to call to tuck me in and say goodnight. I don't...
Yeah,
it's
man.
not really that gay if you come over. Just come on over, dude.
Hey, what's up, man?
What are you doing?
Not much. About to put Vincent to bed. I'm about to go to bed. I was just calling you to tell you good night.
What?
I'm just calling you to tell you good night. I'm about to go to bed.
Why?
Just that time of the night, man. Just about to go to bed. Call you, tell you good night. Sweet dreams.
Are you thinking of me for real?
Yeah, I'm calling to tell you good night. What do you think?
What do you mean? Goddamn, I mean, I love you too. I mean, shit. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, you caught me off guard. Yes, I love you too, but yeah.
I love you too. I love you too. Well, good night, man. Answer either.
Your call. Yeah. What's up, motherfucker?
Hey, hey, I'm about.
What's up, bitch boy?
Hey, I'm about to go to bed. I was just calling to tell you good night.
You're about to go to bed?
Yeah, I was just calling to tell you good night.
Well, night. Sleep tight.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams. What are you calling for?
That's it.
Will and Thrill.
Yeah.
Will and Thrill. I'm not going to bed. I'm staying up. What are you doing?
I'm calling you to tell you good night and
Trying to get him out to drink.
Right.
Wake up. Like you're talking to me now. What's going on?
I'm about to go to bed.
That's my cousin. Don't call him unless you're trying to kick it.
Right.
He gonna get you out that house. If he can sense any bit of weakness in you, you coming out that house, and he about to tell you what he doing and how incredible it is, and it don't matter what time of night it is. Oh, he gonna try to get you out that house.
All right, bye.
Hello.
What's up, boy?
Oh, shit, cuz. Feel cool.
Shit, not shit, man. Yeah, man, shit, I was just...
You said what, cuz?
He should hang up on you.
Hello?
Hello?
What'd you say?
Yeah, shit, I was just calling to tell you good night.
Calling to tell me good night.
Hell yeah, cuz.
He calling good night. What type of shit is that?
Yeah, man, shit. My ass finna go to sleep and shit. I was just calling to tell you good night, bro.
You lonely or some shit?
Nigga, nah, bro. I was just calling to tell you good night, bro. Damn.
What tell me good night for? You never did that shit. What the fuck?
No, bro. Shit, nigga just tired, bro. I was gonna say good night, man. Sweet dreams, my nigga.
Sound kind of gay.
First thing.
Listen, wait a minute. And what was funny was on that one, my man's called him back. Like, man, is everything good though? Are you okay? Which is what made me laugh because I was like, even when people was a little questionable, because they knew that the behavior wasn't what they were accustomed to, there was still the overall concern. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you
But
good,
like, man, I
man? You got
promise you.
cancer or something, Dad?
You know what I mean? And so what was funny about that was, you know, because I saw like a page where they listed all the videos, you know, and I kid you not, man, like I was tapped in for every bit of like a half an hour because it made me laugh. Like I don't know how I would have responded. You know? Just a random dude hitting you up like, man, I just wanted to call you good night. Like I would have played it off, but I would have talked some shit after I got off the phone. Like, what you calling me to wish me a good night for?
You would have thought it was the 90s again. Everything that was acceptable in the 90s would have been coming out of your mouth at that moment.
Now, what I did find fascinating, because at first I was wondering, because the first couple I saw, you know, it was you know, black men, and we are not accustomed to expressing like emotion like that, right? So then I saw the white guys, and when you watch the full videos, man, like, you know, you saw the beginning of one of them where one of them was just like surprised, like, oh, hey, oh man, you were thinking about me? Oh man, well, yeah, man, good night, done. And it was one of those things where it was like, but I saw that also on the back end with a couple of brothers as well. And so it just let me know, okay, this isn't necessarily split amongst, or this isn't split across racial lines, more so than it deals largely with the types of relationships that people had. And what I found to be fascinating was, you know, what began as a prank in many cases made a lot of people feel really fucking valued. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can hear it in their voice that they didn't think it was gay. They didn't think there was anything abnormal about it. They actually loved the fact that someone was thinking about them prior to laying it down and just wanted to wish them a good night. And there's something about that, man, that to me, as funny as a trend as that was, it was beautiful, because it was just like, damn, like here's this like little thing that you were doing to be playful, and you just made a person feel really valuable that may have been going through some shit. Because I can hear it in their voices, like just the sheer surprise that the homie was thinking about them. And it's like, damn, like I'm not even saying that this person was on the ledge or they was going to commit suicide or anything like that, but how often and how often do we express the value that our friends have to us? You know what I'm saying? Like we think it. You know, the clip that I posted early today was from our previous conversation where we were talking about Twitch, right? And how he you know, took his life, and it was a surprise apparently to everyone, co-workers, wife, everyone around him. And you say to yourself, like, here's a person that looked happy, that was just doing TikToks 24, 48 hours ahead of when he took his own life. So everybody was thinking he was cool. What if one of those calls could have been enough to just in that moment made him feel valued, in a sense where he didn't feel like I gotta perform to eat, right? I gotta earn my worth. I'm not worthy because I exist. I'm worthy because of what I produce for you. And as long as I can keep this smile on, you know, the happy, what is it? The sad clown. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like I'm performing for you right now, and everybody's thinking everything is cool, but in reality, there's some real shit that's boiling beneath the surface. And you know, it's I think we all forget that sometimes, right? Like not only that we go through things, but that there are times where we kind of winning. And you know, what do we say? Closed mouths don't get fed. You know, like we literally will create axioms. You know what I'm saying? Like to justify behaviors that we need to grow beyond, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's a closed mouth, but it doesn't mean that it should not be fed. Just because you're not screaming that you're starving doesn't mean that people around you hopefully can acknowledge it, and it doesn't happen intentionally. Like I don't place blame on that in the people that surround you. It's just unfortunate sometimes, right? And so when you see something like that, like this fun trend that I can hear it in people's voice. I mean, some people's like, man, what the fuck, man, you don't do this shit to me. And that's funny because I got them homies too, right?
Yeah.
But there was other people that was just like really taken aback and just felt happy to know that someone was thinking about them. And I promise you, man, sometimes I see shit like that and it just makes me want to double down and become that much more tapped in. Because I promise you, I say I'm the Warren Buffett of relationships, and I don't say that to brag. I say that because I love so many people that I'm surrounded by. And the reality of it is that I just don't always have the bandwidth to let them know how I feel and to let them know what I'm thinking and that I'm thinking of them. You know what I'm saying? But when I see shit like that, I'd be like, fuck, like I gotta figure out how to manage things better to, at the very least, man, tap in, because I'll be wanting to tap in and have like a multi-hour conversation. And I don't have the bandwidth for that with the toddler, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I got to figure out something to where it's people just know, like, bro, I'm thinking about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I fucking love you. And, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because, and not that I would place that pressure on myself and like blame me, but it's wild to know that I feel this way about so many people. And it's unfortunate that I don't always have the capacity, right, to let them know that, you know what I'm saying, that like, man, like small and large people have added so much value to my life, man. And I just wish it was a more efficient way that I could let them know that while I'm swimming in all my to-do lists of all the shit that I got to do for the day, the week, the month, and the year. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just thought that was such a fun. Yeah, it was hilarious. Because some of them get outrageous, bro. Like some of them dudes, they really be offended, man. And I be laughing because I'm like, you was offended.
I got one friend I grew up with that, like, I'll never forget the first time we told each other we loved each other after a phone call. I've known this man since the 4th grade, Robert A. Black Elementary. And even after we said, all right, I love you, fam, I love you too, we had to end it with something hard like one. Because we couldn't just stay in the moment of let the love just be there. It was too soft. So
it felt awkward. It felt real awkward. Hey, have you ever seen that movie Step Brothers?
Yeah. You
remember the scene at the end where they have that moment and then they go to embrace and then the guy just goes like pushes him off. I laugh because I'm like, I know what they were. I know what that was. It was this makes me feel very uncomfortable. Like,
that's right.
You need it, but you resist it like so vehemently. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's happening fucking globally. You know what I'm saying? With a lot of us, man. And if we cannot figure this out, and this is one of those things that I feel like as men we have to figure it out. Like this ain't no. Women are gonna push us to be more like this because I think they recognize the benefits of expressing emotions have in their world, but this is not something that they can push, you know what I'm saying, on us, because then we'll see this as a woman movement. We'll see this as some gay shit. And it's like, nah, this ain't gay. This is what love is, and we just have not been open enough to be able to express it because for whatever reason in our mind, we've always conflated love and sex. And so it's like to us, sex is love and love is sex. And it's like, no, they're actually two separate things. Like there are moments where it co-joins, but they're actually two different things. And so we don't know how to express love without feeling like it's gay. And not that there's anything wrong with being gay, like you pointed out in the clip that I posted today. It's like it's no slur to that, but like it's like why do we have to sexualize something that's pure? You know what I'm saying?
Porn industry, but that's a whole nother conversation. The impact of the porn industry like really made a lot of us as men, because I think this is just my thought. We were just so visual that we conflated and misconstrued what we were seeing. And what we thought what we were seeing was the act of love, when in actuality we were seeing a performance. And furthermore, we were more than likely just seeing, even if those two individuals in that scene were enjoying and did care about each other on some level, it had nothing to do with true intimacy that love brings, like where you can literally see into another person. And, you know, you may have heard that before. Intimacy is into me see. So like you actually see inside of the real care for somebody. And essentially you call your homie up and say goodnight, you're really just saying, I care about you. But because I think that industry has really warped our fragile little minds at a point where we have nowhere close to a brain to decipher what we're looking at and know what it really is. It's very well possible that could be it that did that. That's a whole nother pod, man.
It is, man.
Another 2 hours.
and brother, I appreciate you for hopping on, man, for having this conversation with me, especially even understanding that, you know, since I've shifted to a later time and because of daylight savings time, you know, you're in the Central Standard Time Zone. You know, we're no longer 1 hour apart, we're 2 hours apart. So, you know, it's much later where you're at. I'm going to give you an opportunity to share your final thoughts before I wrap. But I just want to publicly say, man, that it has been an absolute pleasure, man, having this opportunity to reconnect with you. And doing so, not just virtually, right? But like publicly and in a very substantive way, you know, because I've shared this in times past, man, that you've always been such a solid brother. But what I love about life is how it evolves. You said something about your wife a moment ago, how you said what you like is watching her evolution and recognizing, you know, not only that you like her more as she changes, because she changes every couple of years and she adds some additional value. And it's like, I think that we forget that about life, right? Like some people feel like they peaked at a certain point because it was fun in high school. And so every fun moment or every relationship always ties back to a high school experience, without understanding that in each like sector of life is an opportunity for not only growth and evolution, but for like new experiences that can be just as incredible, if not more incredible than the ones before you. And I think that we have to remember that, because if you don't, then you get caught into that space where you're always romanticizing the past or always longing for the things that you missed, or, oh, I'm not as attractive as I once was. It's like, yeah, what you've lost in this area, I promise you in another area, you've gained tenfold. And so I always appreciate having these moments that just help me to remember that element about life, that while it continues to grow, and we continue to mature, that we can evolve, develop, and we can forge new relationships, you know what I'm saying, that add tremendous value. And so, you know, you one of those brothers to me. And like I said, like it's fun always having you on. Like you're a regular for me, and we'll continue to figure out multiple ways of how we continue to build. But I'd want to give you the stage to just share any final thought that you may have.
And honestly, I don't really want to say anything after that. I mean, I can, because you're giving me that, but I echo the same sentiment. You know, you look at how long you've known somebody, and you see, you know, that you see glimpses of them at younger ages and think that, all right, well, you know, they probably going to end up this type person. And then when you see it kind of manifest itself, you just like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming. Like I wouldn't see them doing anything else. And that is definitely what I think about, when I think about you, Isaac, is that like this platform, everything you get to do, it just makes total sense, right? But at the end of the day, we all have gotten an opportunity to live, learn a lot of different experiences. The biggest thing right now for me personally is becoming a more comprehensive man. I want to feel and it be okay. I had the privilege of talking to Mr. Jason Wilson, who has the Cave of Adullam on Sway in the Morning one time. I called in, he was on the show, and I actually got to ask him a question. And I said, look, it feels like my testosterone is dropping super low because I'm actually feeling things like never before. And I need to know, like, why am do I need to up my dosage? Because I'm not used to feeling this way. But to know that, no, as a man, you are allowed to feel. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to know that if you think something is pretty, you can say that. And that has nothing to do with making you less masculine because you use the word pretty to describe something that's actually beautiful. I mean, there's all these things that we've been taught, given our various settings in life and wherever we came from. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to evolve and get older and to slowly but surely just tear those down. And at the end of the day, hopefully when it's all done, we get to be this new, evolved, phenomenal person that can add more value to the world. And then be what you said earlier, Isaac, where we get a chance to actually go back and tell the generations behind us, is like, no, we got this wrong. To be a man looks like this. It looks like being totally comprehensive and being able to feel both the sadness, shame, and every emotion in a robust way and the colors of life and really enjoy it, So thank you as always for having me on this joint, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. And like I said, man, it will be far from the last time. Like I said, because I've always enjoyed it, and it adds tremendous value. And I could tell just from the feedback that we've been receiving. Look, it says, "Gents, I need to do a podcast with you." I got you. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you, brother. And so yeah, just hang tight for a second.
We're doing it right now. We're like, we
right,
at the end of this, we're working our way to it. At some point, we'll be like, hey,
it's
man,
a thing.
I love you,
it's already
fam.
a thing. It's a thing.
5,000.
But until the next time, brother. Like I said, just stay put for a quick second. We'll build. But yeah, guys. As always, it's a wrap. I am going to. One of the topics that I didn't get an opportunity to kind of address, but I think it kind of taps into what my brother was just saying. And I really did want his feedback. Maybe I'll tap back in on a future one because I don't think that this is going anywhere. But, I wanted to ask him, I saw that recently what's been trending in the news has been about the young brother Travis Hunter, who was the first round, second draft pick. And he currently is married to his longtime girlfriend. And there's been a lot of heat, surrounding it. And the big question has been about prenuptial agreements and just like how people feel about that and the whole nine. And it's been fascinating getting people's takes on it. And my take is that I actually don't have a take about what this man should do about his life, right? Like, I know that that's bold. That in 2025, I do not have an opinion on what another man should do to make himself happy. Think about that for a second. Like, I think that we have gotten to a space where we almost feel entitled to have feedback and opinions about other people's lives, what makes them happy. I'm actually proud of them on a level, whether or not it's the wisest decision, it's the future will teach him that, right? The future will teach him that. I don't think it's as bizarre as we all want to make it, right? I think we have a tendency sometimes to project. We have a tendency to place our drama, our baggage on someone else in their situation. Now, I don't really know much about them, but I know that what he feels in this moment feels incredibly real. And I cannot imagine being head over heels in love with someone that was rocking with me before I got this bag, that's been grinding with me. Yeah, she saw the potential, but what woman is with you because they don't see potential? So that's not fair to say, well, she knew he was going to be this, but it wasn't guaranteed, right? And we don't know how it would have played out, but it played out in a way that is favorable for him. And, I saw another post about a day or two ago, and this isn't verified. I don't know if this is real. It was a meme, but it shared that Anthony Edwards, a player who is currently one of my favorite players in the NBA, has had 4 children inside of 12 months from 4 different women that he has no relationship with. And I'm like, which world do you think is better, right? A guy who's been with a woman for 3 to 4 years, she's been holding him down, yeah, she was aware of the fact that he may become something, but they've been doing everything collectively and he is in love with her, versus another guy that's just like, yo, I'm out here in the field and I'm sticking and moving and I have no intention on being a part of any of these children's lives, right? We'll castigate a Travis Hunter and quiet as a mouse pissing on cotton when it comes to Anthony Edwards. And I'm not saying we should judge either, but I'm saying I sense a bit of hypocrisy, right? And I can't imagine you being really in love with a woman and the first thing you're thinking about is the legalities, right? Especially if they've been grinding with you when you didn't have anything. Now, it's one thing when you already got your stuff, you've had it for a moment, you're established, and then you date somebody and you are aware that you are taking them from here to here. But it is a complete different thing when they've been rocking with you, even inside of the potential stage, because all of us have had potential before we really became that person, right? And if someone invested in you the same way, if you bought Bitcoin when it was 50 cents per Bitcoin or $1 per Bitcoin, should someone be like, oh man, well, when you knew it was going to get big? No, you took a risk, right? You took a gamble. We understand this in every other method of life. We understand that you invest when it's low, you take a chance and maybe it hits it big. And then, hey, I took the right gamble, right? I invested wisely. Did she not make a wise investment? What are you all recommending that this man does? Never get married? Should he go and find him some random thought that's out here because, oh, well, the internet is telling me that the woman I've been sleeping with and sharing all my emotions with for the last 3 or 4 years, I should not try to build a world with her. I should try to go and grab a rando because that's what Mace and Cameron believe, right? Like, who knows how this is going to play out? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yo, man, we all got to get out of this space of trying to live a world that's going to appease strangers that do not give a shit about us. Like, the quicker that we do that, the faster we will find our pathway to happiness. When we stop attempting to pay for things that we cannot afford to impress people that do not care about us. The moment that we stop doing that is when we can actually figure out what's going to make us happy. And yes, along that road is going to be some bumps and bruises. Along that road is going to be some people saying, I told you so, right? But you got to make your mistakes. And you can't be so wrapped up and so goddamn concerned about what the peanut gallery is going to think about you. That's the one thing about this social media stuff that's so frustrating to me, is that it gives people voices on topics that they are not qualified to speak about. I don't care what you think about vaccines if you're not a fucking scientist or a biologist. I don't care about your YouTube video. I don't care about some random guy that do the research. Is your research from someone that actually has done the studying, that has actually put in the work? Or are you just pulling this nonsense from someone else that has convinced a bunch of other idiots that they have the truth? We got to get out of this, y'all. We got to get out of this. You got to live life for you. You got to determine what is right for you. If it makes sense for you, if it fits for you, then great. If it does not, man, you got to learn to let it go, right? And so as it relates to that brother, man, I wish him all the best, right? We will learn whether or not he made the right decision. We will. But only he knows what's happening inside of their bedroom. And I think it's unfair that we are throwing so much weight on top of this portion of his life when, he just signed a big ass contract. He's on top of the world. And the only weight, his only burden right now is us. And it's primarily us. It's us, right? It ain't them, it's us. And that's what pisses me off sometimes, man, is how I love Black people with my whole heart and soul, man. But sometimes, man, we are our biggest critics, and we are our biggest obstacles towards success. We got to learn what it means to circle the wagon, right? So, I mean, if you want to get a brother some advice or whatever, give him your advice, but be like, but hey, I hope that everything works out well. You know what I mean? Like we gotta grow in that department. But that's my opinion. I could be wrong. You guys, thank you once again, man, for tuning in to the script. I told you guys I got some big news to share. And even though I'm not 100% ready to share, I'm still going to do it because it needs to happen. So July 24th is historically, and by historically, I mean the past 10 years, considered National Tequila Day. Well, what I learned is that it falls on a Thursday this year, right? And because it falls on a Thursday, I got the trademark for National Tequila Week, National Tequila Weekend. So we're going to be celebrating National Tequila Weekend. It's going to be a 3-day event happening here in Phoenix, Arizona, July 24th, 25th, and 26th. It's going to be happening at the Arizona Center. It's going to be incredibly fun. We've got tequila tastings from many of your Black-owned tequila brands. So that's going to be very exciting. We've got socials. We've got televised tequila tales. And then we have a day party on Saturday that's going to be happening on the 11th floor, which is a 360 view overlooking Arizona. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. I'm super excited. Tickets are going to go up later on this week. I'm very, very excited. You guys are the first to know about it. If you're watching this right now, go ahead and put it in the calendars. I'm letting you know right now, that time in Arizona, if you are not in Arizona, the devil is down here because it is hot as shit. But the fun thing about this event is all three experiences are happening indoors in very well air-conditioned spaces. So it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be for the culture, right? I'm really excited about that and just what it is turning into, right? Because when we first designed it, I was going to try to be as inclusive as possible, but the more we started putting it together, it was like, you know what? This kind of feels like a FUBU moment. This kind of feels like a for us, by us moment. And it's going to be open for everyone. I want everyone to come and experience it. But one of the biggest things that we want to do that we've always done as Tequila Tales is highlight our culture, right? And in the last 5 to 8 years, we've seen a lot of new tequila brands, Black-owned tequila brands that are popping up. And so I wanted to create a platform where, as the Tequila Tales, we're actually broadcasting, spotlighting, highlighting, and just endorsing the movements of a lot of Black-owned tequila brands. And so it's going to be very exciting. Like I said, details to follow. You'll see tickets go up this week. But you guys, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate, like I said, the continued patronage. And until the next time.